up, everyone, and
Hey, guys.
welcome, misfits and all, to this night's episode of Skeptic and Ranting. Is Young Earth Creationism True? Where tonight we are watching a debate called, Is Young Earth Creationism True? Kent Hovind versus RJ Downard. That's how excited I am. From the channel Modern Day Debate. So won't you join James W., myself, Amy Newman, and our special guest host, Atheist Jr., for some apparently 1,000-year-old fun. Woohoo!
Hey guys.
I do want to thank all of you out there for joining us on the intertubes. I don't even know how they make it fit. But please don't forget to
I'll tell you about it when you're older.
Oh my. Follow or subscribe, because then you gain access to that all button icon that will send you reminders to join our live streams. Now, we are a skeptic channel.
No spoilers.
Including the three schmucks that you see hosting. However, at the end of the video, we will be opening up the floodgates, or rather the open mic, so anyone can say what's on their mind about the topic. Atheist or theist, liberal or conservative, come as you are. Just on my sheets. Always, I have to do laundry over and over and over.
500 cleaning bills.
This housekeeping is sponsored by our Patreons at patreon.com/Amy Newman, which helps us make even more fun content, including awesome Patreons like us from the Indios Round.
Thank you, us.
And generally speaking, just Tangang yo, because we are connecting atheists, and at Tart.live. Woohoo! And
thanks,
also sending love so much to Ian Davenport.
Ian, thank you, Ian.
As we level up in the non-believer community, and we kind of notice that, well, watchmaker arguments are kind of silly. It'd kind of be like you found a watch on a field of watches, on a country of watches, on a planet that is a giant watch.
Ever seen a universe creating genie? No?
But it sounds watchable.
Oh. I never saw one of those.
But yes, we are sending love to Oz and Ian. And also, when we listen to creationist claims, it makes us and a grumpy old cuss go bleep, bleep, bleep. Because, spoiler alert, I mean, we talk about this often, and it just happens to be the topic. Yeah, a 6,000-year-old Earth. Good luck making oil that way. Good luck making a star. Good luck making...
They're not short on specifics.
Anything. Yeah, logistics.
The details, yeah.
Details. And also said they love to Diana Smith.
Diana Smith, thank you.
Reminding us that religions have historically definitely treated 51% of the humans definitely as equal. Just some people they treated more equal than others. Sending love to Diana and sending love to Pat Lowinger.
Thank you, Pat.
Has done many awesome Talk Skeptic to Me episodes, including how sacredness came to be, as well as having his own channel with the fantastic, the fabulous, the wonderful Biddy Buddha at youtube.com
Thank you, Pat.
/Biddy Buddha _, sending love to the resident archaeologist, Pat Lowinger, and
Thanks,
also
pseudonym.
Dale Pastel. Woohoo! Because Dale, as always, as well as what really most of the skeptics here are looking for, is empirical evidence. Just a little.
Yeah.
I know that they just want to really get. You go in there and you start rubbing and rubbing. You're working, and eventually you just get a nice syllogism. The problem is you gotta go test it. And I know that's the hard part. You're exhausted after all that writing. Empirical evidence, though.
It's exhausting, yeah.
It is. And sensing love.
She definitely is, Chris. She is very good. Gutsick
Ooh,
Gibbon.
oh, sending love to Gutsick Gibbon.
Great content.
Another. I think we definitely have arch nemesises of Kent tonight with both youtube.com /Atheist Jr and also Gutsick Gibbon, another fantastic lady that
Born in the side.
Checking out there. I would say that Gutsick was one of the early inspirations for me to making like slide-like presentations for any type of debate. She just does great intros. Check out Gutsick. And also, thank you, Dave Gar. Remind us
thank you,
that
Dave.
the Bible and the Quran is a flat Earth text. You know, but don't let them look too deeply into
the pancake model.
The pancake model. And Scott Duke sending love to the lead hyena of the pack, because Scott reminds us, as well as hanging out on the wonderful Answers of Atheism, which is better than Answers in Genesis, Scott reminds us that other animals weren't poofed into existence for us to eat. Doesn't matter if you're a vegetarian or a carnivore or an omnivore. It's really just the fact that if you think that everything out there was created specifically for you, I feel... See someone. It's an armchair psychologist opinion, but do it. Anyway, sending love also to Regis, who reminds us that we have a skeptic Bible study, that we are now in the book of Dudes. We are in the 5th book of the Bible, and reminding us that, you know, the Bible every once in a while gets a little thespian and says, thou's going to stab an interfaith couple in the chest. And last, but certainly not least, for fun, mandatory. Mandatory fun's the best kind, though. Last, but certainly not least, what is up, Roger? Sending love to Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Copyright? No. YouTube? Okay. Sending love out there and reminding us that, you know, the Bible, the Quran, none of these holy texts would ever endorse slavery, because then we would be able to pick them apart thousands of years later. And, you know, it wouldn't be one of, or a good defining reason of why you should not believe in those texts. Oh, good. It's the good book, though.
Good slavery, good book.
But thank you, Rachel. Thank you to all of our Patreons who enable us to make fun content, along with the people in chat, our mods, and of course, viewers like you. So, we are about to break into, I would say, the opposing viewpoint. So before we do that,
classes in session.
I know. I can't help myself.
Nails on a chalkboard to Kent.
Yeah, because that's generally what happens when he has to listen to science. It's just like, even though he learns from the best people in the industry from actual scientists.
Dwayne Gish.
Yeah, exactly.
Other,
Well,
Ken Ham.
he's very fast, and you know,
Oh,
Ken
look
is
at him
great
gallop.
too. I feel like Ken was great at prophesizing. He wasn't able to prophesy his need for flood insurance for his ark, but you know, what can you do when you're trying to shindle people with the? It's good.
Had a little water damage, just a little bit.
Just a little, but that's okay because the company got out of it because it was an act of God. Can't make this shit up. Anyway, is Young Earth Creationism true? No. Put into scientific terms, no. Creationism is a superstitious and profoundly pseudoscientific belief that the world was created in 6,000 years via their interpretation of the Bible, which basically wipes out the vast majority of people who actually did live, breathe, and die just so we could be here. Because humans have been around for only 100,000 to 200,000 years. Yes, only 200,000 years. While primates themselves are millions of years old, and life itself is billions of years old, with a big, old, fat B, which is hard for us to imagine. 99.9% of dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago, yet creationists want us to teach in public school that our ancestors and the Flintstones were, apparently in some sort of documentary. Maybe we need to start doing PSAs. Warning, no one actually rode on a dinosaur. Unless you're Jeff Goldblum on acid or created something animatronic. Or I guess all three. And believing the world was created in 6 literal days, or that not just all of human history, but all of history itself is 6,000 years old, is the equivalent to claiming the earth is flat. Which, funny enough, the Bible does. Though I guess it's always up to our interpretation, that context. Because you just have to rub the book right. Then maybe it'll somehow make sense in light of modern science. Though modern science is not the creationist's best friend. They don't publish in peer-reviewed journals, and when they do spout their apologetics, it's a quote mine of the latest journals from 1963. Most of it, if not all of whom, disagree with the creationist premise and the conclusion. Today, we know how the sun and solar systems rise. We can look backwards to the expansion event of the Big Bang. We can look forward as Andromeda and the Milky Way collide. Just as important, we know about the diversity of life through evolution. That genes do indeed mutate, and the environment naturally selects them. No magical hand waving or brain floating outside of the universe needed. The vast majority of old Earth creationists understand what I just said. Even they can hold the religious views in one bucket and scientific facts in another. So when someone asks, is young Earth creationism true? The answer is a loud no. But if it helps, I can also do a quiet no. If young Earthers want to provide a model and then empirical evidence that we can test for ourselves, cool. But taking pot shots at the backbone of modern biology while offering nothing in return makes me wonder if they don't have a spine. Thank you. And all right, we're going
They're
right
invertebrates.
down, introducing James W. and Atheist Jr. And then we're getting into the fun. James, I don't know. Yeah, they're telling us it's a 6,000-year-old Earth.
6,000 years, 267 days, 14 hours, and 6 minutes. And Jesus will be coming back in about 8 minutes. Better get saved. Get ready for him, right?
Gotta act now.
Yeah. Buy my book. It's about to happen. Tell you everything about to happen. Buy it on the website. We'll throw in my seminar for $50. There you go. But so is Young Earth Creationism true? Of course, the answer is no. It fails every single time it's ever been tried. It fails. It does nothing but fail. And I think, even though you would never get Ken to admit this, he's not doing debates like this one anymore. He's kind of smartened up from that, even though it's so hard for him to learn. Even him, I think he's getting a little bit embarrassed, but he's not doing debates where he defends young Earth creationism anymore. He's just doing debates on evolution. It's not creation versus evolution. It's evolution. He doesn't want to put a model because that's like asking the flat earthers for a model. They don't have a model. They say, we don't need a model. Your model's bad. So it's not, but they'd rather be attacking and put the science on the defense, and they're just battling their bullshit left and right. And science has to not only do what science does, it's got to take time to answer their nonsense. So it works better for them because they don't like having to defend their own model. People go see why tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, James. And all right, we're moving to our headliner, Atheist Jr.
Welcome aboard, AJ.
In fact, some would even say tonight we are skeptic and ranting. I don't know. I gotta ask you, is Young Earth Creationism true?
Is Young Earth Creationism true? No. But all you have to do to see is Young Earth Creationism true is just go through the 6 days of creation So the first day, it basically says God created time. Well, time isn't a singular concept. Time and space are linked. That's why you have the fabric of space-time. So it says he created time and light, but it doesn't say that he created the sun until until the fourth day. So where is the light coming from? On the second day,
God is light.
and he created the earth on the first day, but that doesn't make sense because we know that the sun was created, or the sun existed first, and that the earth was created from the accretion disk of the sun. You didn't have the earth being made before the sun. And so he created the earth on day one. And then on the second day, he created the atmosphere, the sky, and the seas. The third day, it says the land and the plants, but it wasn't until the fourth day that he created the sun. So how did the plants exist for a full day, even if you want to call it 24 hours, with no heat from the sun? Because if you've ever planted a garden, you know that one overnight frost can kill all of your plants. So you can't have plants with no sun. The sun never existed. So that doesn't add up either. And then it says that God created the stars also on day 4. But we know that stars are still being born in clouds of gas and dust. They're called nebula today. Now, somebody like Kent Hovind will deny that and say that, oh, we only see stars dying. We don't see stars being born. We've never seen a star being born. Well, I've never seen a mountain form in my own lifetime, but that doesn't mean that mountains don't form. And he has to say that because the Bible says that God created the stars on the fourth day, that he created the stars and then that was it. They were made, and then no more stars were born after that. And it wasn't until the fifth day that God created the fish and the birds. And on the sixth day, he created animals of the land and man. But we know that humans are animals, just like any other animal, just like fish or birds or any other mammal. I mean, all you have to do is look up the definition of an animal. It's a living organism that feeds on organic matter, that has specialized sense organs and a nervous system, and it can respond to stimuli. I mean, if you look at the category that like an ape is in, it's a chordate, it's a mammal, it has hair, it nurses its young with milk, it gives live birth, it's warm-blooded, it doesn't have an exoskeleton like insects do. We were created from a blastopore. We were deuterostome instead of the alternative. So all you have to do is look at the categories of an animal like an ape, and humans fit all of that too. And the age of the Earth is not 6,000 years old. We know that because of radiometric dating. And that pretty much just settles it. I mean, you can't have the radioactive elements that are within the Earth, like uranium. Uranium has a half-life of 4.5 billion years. We've never been able to change the decay rate. So you can't take all that uranium and have it exist within a 6,000 year time span, because it would decay so fast, it would burn up the Earth and destroy it. And there's other things that have to do with the heat of having such a short time span. It's called the heat problem. Gutsick Gibbon did a really great video on this, so you could check that out. But the Earth is not 6,000 years old. There's so many problems with Young Earth creationism, and just the fact that they don't have a model that explains all of the phenomena that we see on the Earth at once. Instead, they have to make an ad hoc explanation for all of the things that we see and explain them after the fact, shows that it's not good science. It's very similar to the flat Earth. So that right there should show that it's not true. So I'm done, Amy.
Woohoo! Thank you so very much, Atheist Jr. And all right.
Yeah, prepping for the debate, I was going over a few things, and I came across because Ken Hovind, he says, we know that birds did not evolve from dinosaurs because God said the birds were created first before the reptiles. And when I heard him say that, I'm like, well, Kent, the Bible's wrong again. Because we know when feathers first showed up in the fossil record, and they were not on birds. The feathers first showed up on dinosaurs. Now, feather is a highly modified scale. And birds have reptilian scales on their feet. And birds lay eggs like reptiles too. Huh. You'd almost think they evolved from.
You would almost think they shared a common ancestor.
Yeah, you might, if you didn't have the Bible to tell you better.
That's right. You got the good book. And all right, with that, we're going to start the fun, or rather, a debate from modern day debate called.
Well, it's a classic one.
That's right.
James.
Is Young Earth Creationism True? Kent Hovind versus R.J. Downard. Of course, with our commentary on top. Though, during the show, feel free to tag Atheist Jr, James W, or myself in chat with @Amy Newman with your thoughts, comments, or of course, one-liners. When we are done, we will be moving to the open mic so anyone can tell us what they think about the wisdom they just experienced. And with that, James, AJ, let's get ready to be convinced that the world is 6,000 years old.
I am stoked that we have two very seasoned and experienced gentlemen, very well read, and so I'm going to let them
Ken
introduce.
Hovind, well read.
But
Very
first, I just
well
want to
read.
go over a
He's
quick
read
little
every
summary
single
of the
one
timeline
book.
for tonight. In particular, each speaker will have 12 minutes to give their opening statement, followed by 10 minutes where they'll have their rebuttal chance, and then there will be an 8-minute section by each side to give their second rebuttal. And then we're actually going to move right into Q&A, which will go for 30 minutes. So from there, given that RJ will be our first speaker, I'm going to give RJ 2 minutes to just give a brief background
Debate
about himself,
solved.
and then we'll switch it over to Kent to give his 2-minute background about himself, and then we'll switch back to RJ because RJ will actually be starting. And of course, the question,
Kent
as you
hates to
guys
go
all
first.
know already, RJ will be taking no in that case, and Kent will be arguing in the affirmative.
So even though he's arguing the affirmative, he
RJ,
doesn't want to go
here is
first.
introduction. Thanks so much for being here, RJ. Totally
It
appreciate
is
it.
also one of the rare times I've found that this is also him kind of at least taking some of the burden, because normally Kent likes to name it why evolution is definitely not true, or like the debate. So he tries to put biology on.
And then he'll go through his 6-part definitions of evolution, most of which are not biology anyway. So
Yeah, he loves to always say, well, the topic of this debate, the title of this debate is blah 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 evolution. So the burden of proof is on you, because if you've watched my debate, you know that Kent won't defend any of his own beliefs. So he does that intentionally.
Oh, absolutely. It is one of the things I find that he shares with presuppositionalists is that like their own beliefs are the enemy, the antithesis to what they want to be talking about.
I'm not asking my beliefs to be taught in the school, so therefore I don't have a burden.
It's literally a debate. You literally do have a burden of proof.
Indeed.
And in science, if you think that scientific theory is no good, then you're supposed to present a better one in order to replace it.
And
That's how
just
science
like
works.
flat earthers, I find they never actually present a model.
Yeah, of course not. They can't.
It'd be too much. What was starts with a W? Worka. Yeah, they just can't figure it out.
Yeah, I'll try to be less than 2 minutes. I've been investigating the anti-evolution thing for about 20 years. Got into it from a much earlier realm with the old Earth creationists, and then into the intelligent design community, and that transpired finally where I got to do a website, and now Evolution Hour and a lot of other things. And I'm trying to document all of the various ways that anti-evolutionists bump into the data field, and in that process help talk about why evolution is in fact the accurate position. That sums it up. I have a BA in history and spent most of my life in working life in various things, building sheds, doing computer programming, doing inventory, a lot of different things. But now I'm kind of having a midlife crisis in my 60s, and I'm working on the Troubles in Paradise project.
Awesome. Thank you very much, RJ. And now we will switch it over to Kent to introduce himself, give a brief 2 minutes, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, sir. Glad to be here tonight. My name is Kent Hovind. I live in Lenox, Alabama, population 35, straight north of Pensacola. I taught high school science and math in Christian schools for 15 years, and I moved to Pensacola in January of '89, and soon thereafter began the ministry, Creation Science Evangelism. We take the position that the Bible is really true and scientifically accurate, and the evolution theory, as being taught in our schools, is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of the planet. It's not a science. It has nothing to do with science. It's a religious belief that people hold.
Right off the bat,
Yeah.
he is going after it's just we don't want to teach your religion. I always like to point out, anytime that a theist ever uses religion in a negative connotation, just thank them. Say, look, Kent, you and I are just working to end religion. We agree.
I admit my belief requires faith. You don't. At least I admit I've got a religion. You're masquerading yours off as science.
Okay, a guy who named his church Creation Science Evangelism.
Well, I started this church in 1989. I've been speaking on creation, evolution, dinosaurs. I brought 8,000 people to the Lord.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Yeah, that he does.
Do very seriously, and we try to help them get out of that cult. So that's my goal in here, is to get all of you converted
we wouldn't want
over to
people
the
in
Lord.
cults.
That's my goal. I'm independent.
He knows no irony.
There was once a guy, I think a man asked him for advice, and he said, sell all your belongings, leave your family, and follow me. But we're against cults.
Fundamental, right-wing, radical, chicken-eating Baptist, and believe the Bible is literally true from cover to cover, and the Earth's only about 6,000 years old. We ought to be interesting discussion tonight. I'm not anti-evolution. I'm pro-science, and evolution is not part of science. So that's all.
It's also what a flat earther says.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So,
Exactly.
all right, not to keep anybody waiting any longer, I'm
And
excited
thank
to
you,
jump
Cranky
right into it.
Beast,
So, as
sending
mentioned,
that love
RJ
right
will
back.
be going first, and I will start the timer. And in 3, 2, 1, we'll let you let it rip, RJ. So 3, 2,
Ready to go. Okay.
Yeah, I'll let it rip.
Oh my.
I bumped into Kent Hovind quite a long time ago. One of his creationist videos was being viewed by a friend of my brother, and he sent it to me to investigate. And I did. And I found out one of the things that I was fascinated, the reason why I wrote a letter to him way back in the 1990s, was one of the arguments that he was making involved the expanding sun. That if the sun were really billions of years old, it would have been too much bigger. I remember him doing all of this in the video. Because it burns up 4,000 tons of hydrogen every second and converts that into helium, that it would be as big as the Earth's orbit and would fry the Earth. Therefore, the sun cannot be billions of years old. That was such a cockamamie, stupid argument to make because it involved a failure to do long division. All you had to do was divide the mass into the mass of the sun, and you could see that it was just a 100th of a percent difference. It was absolutely trivial over 4 billion years. And so it was a terrible argument. And when I challenged him on it, he said, well, I don't use that one in my videos anymore, which begged the question of why did he use it in the first place, since it was an invalid argument. He was not willing to give up the position, but he wasn't willing to defend it either, because then he jumped to another thing about whether or not the sun was shrinking or not. He was trying to find another rock to go to. Now, you would have thought
Another
this
rock.
was a dead letter by now, But Matt Powell, in
Grandpa?
a discussion with Jackson Wheat, the Louisiana science student that I bump into a lot, just this year was repeating this very claim because he follows Kent Hovind. So either Kent had started up this argument again, or poor Matt was watching a really old Kent Hovind video and never bothering to do the math himself. That was when I started looking at Kent. This was before he was famous, before he had all
Maybe
the
AJ could do one. I think.
I would
Go
say-
ahead.
various years, and now he's back in the
Pause it.
evangelizing video thing.
Or you need a good glass of water. I don't know if AJ needs
Didn't
maybe
see
a glass
any
of water.
change in how he approaches source methods. And one of the things that popped up very, very recently was just, I think, a month or so ago, this Facus Opteryx video that he did, which I could anticipate pretty much all of his content, just as the stuff he's going to be presenting during his show. It's relatively easy to anticipate. He's been doing the same thing for decades. But the show he was doing this time
How's it, Amy?
do with supposedly there were fake things in the bird evolution line, and I knew he was going to bring up Archaeoraptor. They would be bringing up Alan Fiducia. They would bring up the 1996 Brush quote. These are all Alan Brush. These are all things that circulate around in the anti-evolution biz, and so it was pretty predictable. So I
Yeah, they
almost
quote
didn't
mine
watch it,
from decades
but I
ago.
thought, I wonder if he was going to mention Microraptor. Because Microraptor, for those of you who don't know what Archaeoraptor is, it was a hoax fossil that was taking two real fossils and splicing them together. And some people who should have known better didn't smell a rat. Science and Nature smelled rat. National Geographic didn't. No creationist, by the way, exposed it. It was evolutionists who revealed the problem. Stores Olson at the National.
And that is also why you have the peer review
And
process. That
it
is
blew up in the face
exactly
of National Geographic.
what
It
is
turned out
supposed to
the
happen.
fossils composing Archaeoraptor were way more interesting than Archaeoraptor ever was, because one of them was Microraptor, which was this fascinating small crow-sized dinosaur that has feathers on both its front limbs and hind legs. And it was way more interesting. They found complete fossils of Microraptor since, and there's a lot of that, but it doesn't get mentioned in the anti-evolution literature. So I was wondering whether Kent would bring it up at any point in his video, and nope, he didn't. He brought up all the things I was expecting to. Where it kicked into high gear was the whole PowerPoint that he did on Alan Fiducia. As I was watching it, because I'm a scholarly methods guy, I'm looking where you get sources from. For a while, I thought he might have been authority quoting directly from the Fiducia paper, but then the way I could see the way the sources were coming up, I realized he was taking somebody else's gloss of Fiducia. And so I did some text searches on the intro lines to find out where he might have been getting it from. And I instantly hit pay dirt. It was Harun Yahya, the Islamic creationist. Line for line, paragraph for paragraph, the entire PowerPoint was 100% cribbed from Harun Yahya, and uniquely from Harun Yahya, even down to brackets and semicolons and a whole 9 yards. Well, so you have one bottom feeder parasitizing another bottom feeder, which means that he was entirely dependent upon the inaccuracies of Harun Yahya channeling this Alan Fiducia article. For those of you who don't know who Alan Fiducia is, he's kind of the Fred Hoyle of bird
Yeah, and
evolution.
every time they actually do offer articles that agree with them and that seem to be from a creationist viewpoint, it's because, well, it is specifically generally a creationist that is just creating an article so that they can give it to other creationists.
Like
So
Otangelo citing himself.
Yeah.
yeah, so Kent Hovind, he does not believe in evolution, and he also does not believe in wearing headphones during a debate.
Really?
Yeah, that's why it's echoing, is because Kent refuses to wear headphones or just doesn't understand that you should wear headphones because the speaker noises are going to echo. That's what is happening.
Once again, it's not the scientific, but within the audio industry, they actually have another technical term for that. It's called being an asshole.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've heard of that.
But Kent, the little things, I'm sure. He probably can't afford it. It happens.
Right.
Kent's writing something down. Good. Alan Fiducia is somebody who still wants the bird.
Write it down, Ken.
He's an evolutionist. And but the point is, he's really been backed up against the wall on the fact department. And an argument that was pretty possible in 2002 has proven to be completely irrelevant in 2018 because we know way more about the fossil record. We have more Cretaceous birds going on. We've got paleogenomic reconstruction of archosaur skulls into bird beaks. We've got way more stuff going on than was available in 2002, which couldn't matter if all you were doing was parasitizing something from Harinaya. Now, the fascinating thing, I just asked Kent before the show started up if he types in his own PowerPoints, because what intrigued me about it is when you read this PowerPoint, you stumble over the terms. You stumbled over lacustrine, and you stumbled over enantornithinses, not recognizing that Harinaya had just pluraled a plural. And so you were clearly
See, I like this because it is an academic actually taking shots at him. And I can't help it. It's like a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
And I like how he says har and ya.
That's true. He's got a little har and ya.
Full read on this. That meant that you hadn't really thought through looking up the source material. You hadn't rehearsed it beforehand. That's not a good thing to do when you're trying to do a deference to your audience. Very, very big problem. Then we, of course, were dealing with the fact that you needed to go beyond Harinyaya's parasitical citation of Alan Fiducia, because Richard Crum had written a really scathing criticism of Fiducia stuff that appeared in the Auk magazine journal maybe a few months later. And so there was a lot of water under the bridge that you wouldn't know if all you were doing was parasitizing Harinyaya's version of Alan Fiducia. But it gets even worse, because you then went on and decided to say that Archaeopteryx was fake. Excuse me, this is twaddle. It's been twaddle for decades. It's
Total
stupid
twaddle.
an argument. Even creationists don't accept it. Creation Witnesses and Institute for Creation Research all accept the
Yes.
Archaeopteryx fossils.
I just
legitimate.
can't point that out enough. Like that Kent is a pariah even within the, not just the creationist, but the young earth creationist community.
I was in watching the debate on Praise's channel the other day between, it was Gavin and I forget who he was debating, but I saw someone in their side chat said that like he just mentioned Australopithecus afarensis or Lucy, like they proved that one was fake decades ago. I'm like, only in your own mind have they proved that one fake, because no, that remains a perfectly valid species, perfectly valid fossil record. We know that they existed, and we know that they're a transitional species. Keep dreaming, guys.
Also, I just want to know, we always like to offer fashion advice here. I'm open to it. Just open to it. But we are skeptic and ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True? We have Dr. Mill Hovind. What were we talking about? With us tonight on the opposing view. And we also have the fantastic, we got Atheist Jr hanging out with us to roast him.
He deserves it.
Something that was put
He does. A little bit. Okay, a lot of it.
forward back in the 1980s by Fred Hoyle, the wacky anti-Big Bang guy who thought that the plagues came from outer space eventually. He had weird issues on a lot of strange stuff. And Lee Spetner, the anti-evolutionist, and a couple of their buddies.
Oh. All right, guys. I think we lost Amy. Yeah, her browser probably crashed. Here she comes.
Damn you, Satan. I had to sell time shares very quickly in hell.
Well, I love this debate because do you guys know who Alan Fiducia is?
Sounds familiar.
Alan Fiducia, he's a scientist, but he and these couple other scientists started this sort of group back in the 80s called BAND. It's Birds Are Not Dinosaurs.
Oh,
So
yes, yeah.
if you ever see a creationist citing Alan Fiducia or citing somebody who cites him, that's wise, because they're trying to show, oh, well, you know, birds aren't dinosaurs, but Alan Fiducia, he still thinks that evolution is true.
They just
He just-
think that birds did not evolve from dinosaurs.
Yeah, he thinks that it's sort of a
Interesting.
stubborn thing that he's just held on to. You know, he's
Even
not
though,
taken seriously.
and that is also, I would say, if you want to get your scientific theory out there, you must do so via band. It's the only way. Nonetheless,
Birds are not
we're gonna go with
dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah.
Evolutionists and a couple of their buddies who came up with this argument that they gave in not a technical journal.
No,
but
dinosaur chicken nuggets are dinosaur-shaped dinosaurs. Just want to continue to point that out.
in the British Journal of Photography. It bounced along for a few years until Alan Charig and others just vaporized it in the fact that they were getting their forensic facts wrong. And of course, we know that Archaeopteryx ain't a fake because we've got a whole bunch of them since then. The idea that some little old man was carving Archaeopteryx fakes in the 1860s and flipping them into things in the 1980s and 2000s, right down to the present time, is absolute nonsense. So this is a terribly annoying thing. That Kant's position is that all of these textbooks are spreading fake things and they're spreading lies. Well, it is unconscionable for somebody in 2018 to make the claim about Archaeopteryx when that is the lie, that the claim that Archaeopteryx is a fraud, that's the falsehood, that's the fake news, that the encyclopedias and technical people that refer to Archaeopteryx as a real fossil are doing correct and accurate science, and it's Kant who is blowing smoke rings on this. So what we're seeing here is a pattern of behavior from people who, like the vast majority of anti-evolutionists, are addicted to secondary sources. Kent Hovind is not a fact claimant. There are about 50 fact claimants in the entire anti-evolution biz, and Lee Spetner would be one of them, not a very good one. Jeffrey Tompkins is another, Brian Thomas, Steve Meyer over on the intelligent design side. These are the people who actually make primary source arguments at source level. They get the facts wrong when you start looking at the details, but that's a separate issue. Kent isn't in that category. He's a bottom feeder. And he's so much of a low-level bottom feeder that even Answers in Genesis doesn't take him seriously. They don't cite him on stuff.
That's the greatest thing.
Jonathan Sarfati and Wieland and a few others wrote a criticism of him quite a few years back. And they may have a happy opinion of him in the anti-evolution biz personally, but their public pronouncements is they don't really pay much attention to it. Now, from a science methods point of view, this is a no-brainer. It's 2018. There are rigorous ways to do sound scholarship. You pay attention to all the data. You try to find primary sources, not secondary ones. You do fact-checking of your material. You try to work out what you think happened and rigorously apply to all the available data. You have
You want him to fact check?
If it's in the Bible, it must be a fact. There you go. It's in the Bible.
Is he fails on all of those fronts. He objectively is a secondary source addict, and he doesn't fact check his sources, as he didn't do with that Haru and Yahya citation. We know that he is missing most of the data field because the people he copies miss most of the data field. They're barely bumping into 10% of the technical literature. I'm not guessing this. I'm measuring it source by source in my tip project. And then the third aspect is
The results came out 15 feet long,
we
by the
know
way.
what he thinks happens regarding specific.
Ooh, one of those, huh?
In his debate with Aaron Ra, when Aaron Ra would be bringing up various other taxa,
don't trigger Kent.
I haven't studied that. I haven't looked into that. Well,
He's got flashbacks to that Aaron Ra
to
debate.
work out what you think kinds are. You would need to work out what you think the flood was doing, not only in distant places, but literally under your own feet. You should be able to explain what flood geology is doing when you're living in Pensacola or now that you're living in Alabama and be able to deal with that kind of thing. I've seen no sign of that. And finally, and the killer is what would change your mind. This is a 100% failure rate across all anti-evolutionists that there is
And
nothing.
this is a point I continually would like to nail home. Is
Absolutely.
that I always want to know what will change a person's mind. I think James and AJ will say the same. Is almost for many of our beliefs are not 100%. They may even be 99.9%. But I would say always be very weary of the people that say they are 100% sure of
Nothing would change my mind.
yes, a very
Well,
few things.
there have been a lot of people who've criticized Kent Hovind for using the same PowerPoint slides and talking points since the 1980s. And his response to that is just, oh, well, truth doesn't change. It's like, okay, well, truth maybe doesn't change, but science gets updated. It
Indeed.
becomes more accurate. So
He's not
creationists,
concerned with that.
they like to criticize science by saying, oh, well, they thought the universe used to be 20 billion years old, and now they're saying it's 13 billion years old. But it's not because they're just randomly picking these answers. They're zeroing in on the more correct answer.
Collecting
why
more
it's-
data, incorporating more data into the theory, it gets more precise, right?
Yeah, that's why the age has always gotten lower. It hasn't been like 20 billion years and then 69 billion years and then 420 billion years. It always
doesn't
gets
go-
lower.
Doesn't go back and forth, around, up and down,
Right.
vacillating wildly around. It's always getting closer to the truth.
Yeah, and science updates and gets more accurate. It's the Bible that doesn't change. That's what he's really saying.
And that's what I would say to when they say that evolution or atheism is a religion, because evolution is falsifiable. You could easily go and falsify evolution. You just have to find fossils in the order that they can be in evolutionarily, and the theory would be dead overnight. But that's never actually happened. But if you want to do it, you can go out there and dig for fossils. Get your butt in the lab, like Amy is saying. Don't just say it's a religion.
Yeah.
And he makes that claim. It's like Amy said before. It's almost like them conceding that religion is not good. That faith-based positions is not a good way to base your views on. But yeah, that's all they have.
And yeah, the other thing is, like Mika's saying, Wesley's like, I do like to how. But Mika's like, they use references from the 1800s, which, yeah, a new reference they'll bring up is from like the 60s to 80s, maybe the 90s. And even then, they are generally misquoting them, or like the people they're quoting disagree with people like Kent on every level.
Thing that is going to change Kent's mind. No amount of evidence, no amount of fossils. Fossils don't matter to him. You can't tell anything from a fossil, according to him. He's going to be stuck on this same rote routine where he's got the same PowerPoint details and the same old textbook things and the same accusations of fraud and the same accusation that you can't go from mud to man. And it's a routine thing. And we'll go into this in the rebuttal and further discussion. We're just about to our 12 minutes, and I think I've covered the basic gauntlet thrown. I'll end before my time is up.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I am very excited about our debate so far. So,
And I am just sending love out there to James from Modern Day Debate. Look at that smile on there. So happy to be modern. Sending love even from many years ago and to Modern Day Debate.
we have solved the audio problem, and thank you for your patience on that. As a couple of people in the
I'm
comments.
sounding okay. I got this fancy razzle dazzle microphone. I hope it's working properly.
Oh, it definitely sounds good. I just figured out what it was. It was on my side. So thank you.
No, it wasn't.
And now we are going to turn it over to Kent, and that is going
Nice
to be
of him
for
to
his
say so,
12-minute
but
introduction.
yeah,
So
we know who's
the
following
floor
us.
is yours.
Watch the echo stop
Well,
right
thank you,
now.
sir, for having me, first of all. I obviously reject the idea that I'm a bottom feeder. I think I have a fairly good understanding of this topic, and I think I'd be glad to take on anybody. I've often had a challenge for years and years. I'll debate any number of atheists or evolutionists on the condition I get half the time, and we talk about one topic at a time. Very simple. He brought up about 10 different topics here, so let me take them one at a time. I am Kent Hovind. I believe the Bible is literally true. My primary source, I could listen to anybody's source, but the Bible says very clearly that God made the world in 6 days. That's what it teaches in Genesis chapter 1, in Exodus chapter 20, and Exodus 31, and numerous other places. Jesus said that nothing died until Adam sinned. And Adam, the creation of Adam
Always
was the
Applegate.
beginning. That's clearly what the Bible teaches. I believe that is true, but I also happen to love science. So when I look at Jesus saying the creation, you can add up the dates in the Bible, and the Bible teaches clearly the earth is about 6,000 years old. Years old is
No, it really doesn't. They
dates you
just
get from
make
adding
that
up scripture.
shit up, by the way. Like, there's nothing in here. They just try and add up a whole bunch of years. But, like, the ancient rabbis and Jesus, if he existed as a man, I imagine they didn't give a shit about how old the earth was. It's these people that have to, like, ad hoc their way to an actual number. But sure.
Sure. And I believe that's true. Now, I think there are a lot of scientific ways to indicate that is also true, or certainly there cannot be millions of years old. I'd like to point out that the Bible teaches that in the last days, the scoffers, people who scoff at the Bible, such as my opponent here, would be willingly ignorant of three things. Number one, the creation. What was that creation like? Number two, the flood. What would a worldwide flood do to this planet? Where would the water come from? Where would it go? I think I can offer answers to all of those. And number three, they're ignorant of the coming judgment. 2 Peter chapter 3, there's a judgment coming. And RJ, you will.
Coming, Amy.
I was going to say, as long as someone's
Hope
coming, I
thanks
guess
God
we're
with your
doing
current
well.
position. I would be nervous if I were you. Of course, there's
Are
always
you feeling nervous, Amy?
either way. Even if you're right,
I
I've had
think
a wonderful
Amy's a little nervous up there.
for the Lord, or trying to live for what I perceive as what God's will. Okay, quite a few things you mentioned here I'd like to cover in my introduction. I do take the position the Bible is true, and a rapid creation.
I thought he was going to say missionary. I was going a different direction. Okay.
6 days of all life forms is the only way that it will work. You can't have plants on the earth for millions of years without animals, because plants breathe.
This point was just glossing over some of this amazingness beforehand. This point is so stupid. I just want to remind everyone not to go total hippie, but if all of the plants in the world were to die right now, it would take not very long for us to die. But if all of us died, plants would still be doing just fine. They would find other ways. They may even have, in some ways, more evolutionary growth spurts as they take territory back.
Then CO2 would give off oxygen. They would quickly.
I think what it means is they wouldn't have the animals to pollinate them if there were no land animals.
Well, actually, I don't think what he is saying is basically he's about to say that without us, the carbon, what we give off as a byproduct is what they suck in, but that is us reacting to them. That is not like it's symbiotic now, but only because there was a massive extinction event from an oxidized world, because the planet wasn't originally had oxygen on it.
It's like if there is an energy source that something can convert into energy, something will fill that niche and, find a way to use that available source of energy, even if be it carbon or oxygen on the other end.
And we filled those niches with scritches.
Okay, the gases. Animals breathe in oxygen and give off CO2. The Bible says the plants are made on day 3 and the animals made on day 5 and 6. So that's not a problem at all for a rapid creation.
Wrong.
I think there are millions of things about our creation, our world, whether we look through the microscope or the telescope, about our universe, this has to be designed. Somebody made this. Earth is it's in the golden zone for the right gravitational pull. If the Earth were bigger or smaller, it would upset things as far as life forms being able to survive
the planet.
with the gravity, with the air pressure, the air density, the mixture of gases, other planets. Yeah. This is the only place we know for sure that life is even possible. And
so he's I think he's talking about the sort of habitable zone of the Earth. But the habitable zone of the Earth is in between, like an astronomical unit is the distance between the Earth to the Sun, and the habitable zone is like 0.9 to 1.2 astronomical units. So we have a lot of wiggle room where the Earth could be closer or farther away from the Sun, and it wouldn't get too hot or too cold. So, it's not like it's only in this exact spot, and if it was any different, we would get pulled into the Sun because of gravity
Right.
or burn up. It's just not true.
I think Mars is in the habitable zone where
Not
life
only-
could exist.
Not only is Mars in the habitable zone, I believe Venus is in the habitable zone. It's
Yes.
just that Venus has had a runaway gas house effect, and Mars lost its atmosphere slowly.
But there could even be life on the oceans of Europa, Jupiter's moon, because that gets a lot of
Hoping
heat
you
just
said
from,
Uranus, but you're right. Europa.
Yeah, from the I think Titan is another moon of Jupiter, Titan Europa, because I think the tidal friction between Jupiter and the moons is so great that it generates enough heat in the center of the body. Well, there could be life in those oceans down there. Meow. Is that Moonlight or is that the other one?
That is Penelope.
Penelope Cruz.
She is also quite adorable.
That she is.
And with that, we're going back into Is Young Earth Creationism True? I think what we're going to do is we're going to move to all the way to the Q&A section, and then we'll do that kind of either the optional break off into the open mic or to keep on moving through.
Well, yeah. Why don't you do the open discussion part? That's the best part.
Exactly. We're getting to the
Get
meat.
past Kent's opening, yeah.
Certainly the only place we know for sure that life exists is on planet Earth. They're spending a lot of money looking other places, but so far, zip, zero, zilch. So if you wish to believe something's...
And if you're wondering what Kent was just talking about, he is explaining his tax returns.
someplace else, you're welcome to, but that's not science. You mentioned the fake bird evolution. I'd like to point out, RJ, that if you're looking at fossils of any kind, be it Archaeopteryx, I don't care if they find 1,000 Archaeopteryxes, it's a dead bird. It's a dead creature. It's a fossil. It's a bone in the dirt. You can't prove that it had any children.
Really hurts.
You can't prove fossils had any children. Fossils had different children. Every farmer in the world today, every farmer in recorded history will testify that animals bring forth the same kind. Exactly what the Bible says 20 times. 10 times in the first chapter of Genesis, it says they're going to bring forth after their kind. That's all we've ever observed. Cows produce cows. Corn grows corn. I covered this tonight in my YouTube. We're just going to be posting now in the next hour or so. Go to Kent Hovind Official, YouTube almost every night, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
Or
I'm covering things that I think evolutionists cannot possibly explain how they evolved. We're going through the alphabet, A, B, C, D. We're up to F now, and we did the fennec fox. How could this evolve slowly by chance, and from what? And where's the scientific evidence? There is no scientific evidence anywhere on planet Earth that any animal has ever produced a different kind of animal. And I'll use the word kind deliberately.
Because
there are 8 varieties
there's
of
never
bear.
been a kind of
They had a
animal.
common ancestor called a bear. There are about 30 varieties of chickens, and they might have had a common ancestor called a chicken. There are 333 recognized breeds.
A chicken is a chicken. Thanks.
Yeah.
Dogs by the American Kennel Association. They probably had a common ancestor with dog. See, those variations within the kind is not evidence that dogs and pine trees are related. The debate with R. Rod you mentioned, he said, well, they're both eukaryotes. Well, that simply means they have a nucleus in the cell that has a membrane around it.
100%.
I would say elephants and bowling balls are both
guarantee.
affected by gravity, and they both cast a shadow. Therefore, they must be related by that kind of logic. It's absolutely silly. Now, I think it's okay that you want to believe this stuff. I don't care what you believe. But I think it's criminal that you want to teach this to other people, especially
Also, that's
to
a
kids.
lie. Like, I don't know. I don't often say lie, but because that means an intent to deceive. But of all the people, this mofo does very much care what you believe. It is actively trying to affect public policy-ish because these guys are so ineffective at what they do. Nonetheless, they're still dangerous.
Sure.
public school and do it.
It's a good racket for them.
Right
Everybody
there.
has to pay for your religion of evolutionism to be
Yeah.
taught. I think you should go start a private school and teach them. We all came from a rock 4.6 billion years ago, which came from nothing exploding 13.7 billion years ago, or whatever number you're using today. You're welcome to teach it in a private school. Absolutely should not be a state-funded
Like
religion.
it changes so
what we have
drastically.
here with evolution. So you mentioned about the sun expanding or shrinking. Technically, I think you should have said shrinking. You said expanding. I taught and still believe there is evidence that the sun is burning. Step outside and look at it. You will see the sun is burning. Somehow, from somewhere, it's getting fuel. Now, whether it's a nuclear reactor, which it most certainly is at some level, is there also gravitational collapse? There's plenty of evidence on both of these fronts.
It's both. And we know that it's both. The sun doesn't burn. The sun is changing hydrogen into
Fusing,
helium through nuclear fusion. And that causes the sun to expand. But the sun is also got a force, which is a gravitational constant that's pushing inward. And that balance of forces is what keeps the sun in its equilibrium. And the sun, when it does nuclear fusion, the helium it produces has less mass than the hydrogen. And since E equals mc squared, it releases that mass as energy. And that's what causes the sun to shine. But it's not burning up fuel. It's so annoying that Kent says that.
Yeah, not in the same way that like your car burns gas. It's a completely different process.
More like match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sun is burning, and it's burning up and losing an enormous amount of mass.
Also, my continual challenge I will ask to Young Earth Creationists, just give me a model. And it can't just be God did it. That's the explanation. Give me a model by how you create a star in 6,000 years. That's all I want to know.
Poof. That's the model. The poof.
The only part of the argument you dealt with, RJ, is the sun shrinking. I think there's visual evidence from 1836 up till the present from the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, England, that the sun is shrinking.
Mika's right.
Yeah,
Look at that. He's like, you guys use all this new information. You guys got to use information from 1836. Even though Darwin's theory of natural selection is mostly still the same. We just now have genetics to back it up. But the fossil record in genetics is both new and continually being added to our knowledge.
That's how science works. We don't deal in absolutes. Everything is subject to more information coming in, more data being added, and the model being refined. That's how it works. It's a constant process.
The grouping of evolution by natural selection, and plus Darwin didn't even know about genetics when he came up with his theory, but you add on genetics to that, and Evo, Devo, and epigenetics, and all of the modern stuff they're doing today, like CRISPR and stuff like that, embryology, it's called the modern synthesis. So creationists like to just talk about Darwinists and Darwinism. Like, evolution is not obsessed with Darwin. Like, he was an important contributor to it, but there's so much more to evolution than what Darwin did.
Yeah. And isn't it amazing, though, that Darwin didn't know anything about genetics. They had other hypotheses they were working on for how the information would get transferred, but yet genetics absolutely confirmed evolution through natural selection. It was totally concordant.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't until Gregor Mendel did his experiments with pea pods that they discovered what the heritable unit of information
material was. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's how obvious it was to Darwin when he saw the finches.
I'm now just remembering my high school text. I think we all remember the pea pods.
Yep.
Can't help it. But once again, those are the backbones of modern biology. I think I'm about to have two cats. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about to be I was about to say catastrophe, but it's going to be fantastically, catastically.
Obviously all, but the overall trend is toward shrinking. And the estimate has been, for the last 180 years of studying it, that it's shrinking about 5 feet an hour. Now, on a massive planet that big, 880,000 miles in diameter, that's minimal. But more importantly, the sun is losing mass. It's losing an enormous amount of weight. All this fuel that it's burning.
The sun's not a
the
planet.
solar
but,
system, and
yeah.
we're getting some of the heat from it right here on planet Earth. We get quite a bit of it in Alabama in the summertime. So the sun is losing heat, which losing its mass to some degree, losing its diameter, but losing its mass creates a problem. If you want to pretend that all these planets have been circling around the sun, held in by gravitational pull, which I certainly believe they are, I don't believe in the flat Earth or heliocentric theory, or geocentric theory.
Which is funny because, once again, both the Old Testament and, by its nature, then the Gospel and then the Quran, all of them flat Earth texts.
The planets don't orbit the sun in circles; they have elliptical orbits.
Yeah, so basically they get everything wrong on the biggest
He's not
question.
gonna let the details get in the way of his
Picky.
fables.
And he called the sun a planet. So
Did he really?
yeah, you can rewind it.
Oh, that is so fun.
But it's losing its mass creates a problem. If you want to pretend that all these planets have been circling around the sun, held in by gravitation,
keep going.
which I certainly believe they are.
Keep on going back.
Yeah, go back like a minute.
Has been, for the last 180 years of studying it, that it's shrinking about 5 feet an hour. Now, on a massive planet that big, 880,000 miles in diameter, that's minimal. But more importantly, the sun is losing mass. It's losing an enormous
Massive, Amy.
all this fuel that it's burning is leaving into the solar system, and we're getting some of the heat from it right here on planet Earth. We get quite a bit of it in Alabama in the summertime. So the sun is losing heat, which losing its mass to some degree, losing its diameter, but losing its mass creates a problem.
Apricot's
If you want to pretend
I could draw a star in less than 6 seconds, let alone 6,000 years. Checkmate, atheist.
all these planets have been circling around the sun, held in by gravitational pull, which I certainly believe they are. I don't believe in the flat Earth or heliocentric theory, or geocentric theory. But if the sun is losing its mass, it's over, and you want to go back in time, adding 5 million tons a second to the sun, which is the current estimate, 5 million tons a second it's losing, that's going to upset the gravitational pull if you go back billions of years. Now, I know how badly you need billions of years for your theory to be true. I mean, that is the God of your theory and can do what obviously we cannot observe. In your thinking, you know, humans and bananas are related, even though we don't ever see bananas.
It's another thing that really annoys me is he's like, oh, you think you're related to a strawberry? You think you're related to a banana? Once again, the banana, the strawberry is the reproductive organ. And it would be like looking at like a woman or a man and be like, you think you're a penis? You think you're a uterus? Is that what you are? You're a uterus? No, we are related to the plant. And that is their way of reproduction.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to sign off now, Amy.
That is
all right, sounds good, AJ. Good to see you.
I want to say just thank you so very much, AJ, for joining us. And I do want to just give it back to you. We are Skeptic and Ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True? Where can people find you? And then please, what are your final thoughts?
Well, no, I don't think it is true. I think that this debate, what we've seen so far of it, demonstrates that pretty well, because these arguments can't be defended by Kent. But my channel is it's called Atheist Jr. You can just search for that on YouTube. I've been doing videos recently. I did a video about, I was responding to Stephen Meyer, who I think he's from the Creation Institute. He did a video on PragerU. It was a 5-part video about, is there a conflict between science and religion? So I did a response video to that. And my channel, it just hit about 4,000 subs. I'm also on Twitter, so you can find
Well,
me
on the
on
way
there.
to 5,000. Yep.
Yeah, hopefully soon. That'll be good. I'll have to do an actual like celebration video for that because I haven't done any of those videos since I hit 1,000. But maybe
You could
maybe I'll do that for 5K.
dedicate it to LPP.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't have any other social media, but I do have a Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Atheist Jr. I have 33 patrons on there, and we have a really cool, supportive community. It's really fun there. I post a lot of memes on there and on my Twitter. And if you want to sign up there, you can get channel updates and see videos early and get exclusive videos that you're not going to see on YouTube, where I swear a lot more.
Oh,
But yeah,
we know Kent doesn't like to swear. He does not like penalty.
Yeah, I posted one of them on YouTube. I put a language warning in the title, but that's pretty much it for me.
But then I do have to ask one final thing. Are you telling me that after watching 15 feet of his debate tactics, that you don't think the world is 6,000 years old?
Well, I would rather be 6 feet under than hear Kent Hovind talk about something that's 15 feet.
I think I agree with you. And all right, thank you so very much, Atheist Jr.
Thank you,
for
AJ.
coming on.
Sure.
Woohoo! And go check out Atheist Jr.'s channel. I'm going to put it up one more time at the bottom, and I'm also going to put it up in the description below. Thank you so very much. And all right.
Thanks, AJ.
We are going to jump back in up to, I think, the Q&A. We are Skeptic and Ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True? Kent Hovind versus RJ Downard are going toe-to-toe. It's almost like we're searching the bottom, I think. We're bottom feeding, though. I love that. So
She can't get enough of it.
But if you give it enough time, it could happen. Time is the hero to the plot for you guys, and I understand that. So when I do anything that tries to attack your god of time, you get frantic because you must
we
have
should attack
billions of years.
gods.
Billions of years.
Listen to him. Attack religion bad,
Yeah.
God's bad. Just listen to him.
I mean, okay, it took a long time. What do you want us to do, Kent? It takes a long time. Evolution doesn't happen that fast. Oh, you guys need time. Well, yeah, but guess what? We have time, so it doesn't matter.
But there's time now.
Time! Ah, pull your hair out. You mean the Earth wasn't just created yesterday? Ah!
Yeah.
Get over it, Kent.
Hurdles you would have to jump over. Even if the universe were billions of years old, and I think we can demonstrate it's not. But even if it were billions or trillions or quadrillions of years
old, but he
old,
thinks so.
nobody's ever seen a dog produce a non-dog or a cow produce a non-cow. It just doesn't happen. It's not observational science. It might take place in your imagination, like SpongeBob. Just imagine this thing happening, and you might really seriously believe it. I don't question your sincerity, and you might get a lot of other people to believe it. There are a whole lot of people who believe in Islam. That doesn't make it true. There are a whole lot of people who believe
Oh my gosh! If he only knows the irony.
People believe all sorts of things. In North Korea, I would challenge you to find any journals published in any of the magazines in North Korea that say communism doesn't work. I think if somebody published an article, or if a teacher stood up in the school in North Korea,
he just wants his version of autocratic theocracy in place. So,
and said, "I don't think communism works," they would be fired or executed. And I think today evolution has become the standard of universities. And if a person dares to challenge it in the school, they're likely to lose their job. Watch the movie Expelled, where they cover that in great detail with Ben Stein.
Yeah, it breaks my heart. Not that Ben Stein was an amazing comedian, but it always, when there is someone who falls to the dark side, then Stein is a creationist, which is like a random thing.
And I mean, the thing is what would the academic institutions do if they had someone in their geography department who said, "I think the world is flat"? I mean, do we have to placate them and say, well, some religions say that it's flat, so if they want to teach the world is flat and they want to put papers out about it, then I guess we just have to accommodate them. And that's the same thing as having a creationist in your biology department. What are you supposed to do with that? It's demonstrably not true.
Science, but it's demonstrably not true.
It's demonstrably not true, and you know, I'm sorry. The reality is that it's not true, and if they're teaching another subject and it has nothing to do with that, they're not putting. Then I guess it doesn't matter. But if they're in a life sciences department, yeah.
And I just have to send love out there. I can see some. I have to say, Wesley, some of your stuff is making me giggle, but it makes me think: are you coming on Team Skeptic? Because that's what I would like. If we just need to get more people. Oh nope, I see posts, and that's not okay. Maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
hey.
yeah.
We want to get everybody on Team Skeptic, on Team Science, but we love all, no matter.
We'll get you there one day.
And theists. We will be posting a link eventually, Wesley. We just want to get through a little bit more of the meat. They haven't really. It's like they've been in caged matches, so we're getting to the back and forth. Team Bug Repellent. Oh, that's fine. Look, it's about to get warmer weather out there. You're about to need your bug spray, I will say. I used to work at Walgreens, and we used to sell by the bucketful. Mika's like, I'm actually in debt to PragerU. We want to give big thanks, because if I didn't see their ads on videos getting enraged, I wouldn't have landed in the wider atheist debate community on YouTube. That's right. Sending so much.
That's how it goes, isn't it?
To all of the very, very silly creationists who have just inspired us in our hearts to having to make replies at 3 a.m. in the morning, and now we're here, and at least one of the two of us hosting today is queer. I have to make that at least once a podcast, but
mandatory.
But we are actually just talking Skeptic and Ranting. Is Young Earth Creationism true? Ken Hovind, the poster model for Hawaiian t-shirts, is trying to convince us that the world is 6,000
striped
years
Hawaiian
old.
shirts.
Yeah, I did say that. We are getting a snowstorm here.
Just call it off, Wesley. Can't you just hand wave it away and the storm will go away?
Both me and my nephew, we are big geeks, excited about weather, very specifically extreme weather, I would say. So the storms,
you're going to be a
really
tornado hunter.
Tornadoes. I wanted to be a tornado hunter. That was one of the things that I wanted to be when I was young, and so I will one day go out
come
there
down
and see
to
tornado. Why are they out there?
No, not tornadoes so much, but hurricanes. You ever rode through a hurricane?
So I've been in hurricanes, but I've seen that. I would love to be even in extreme weather like
You
that.
ever been through the eye of a hurricane where it stops?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
we're not at least like that, where it was that.
That's pretty
obvious.
surreal. Oh yeah,
It'll
the wind will be blowing, and then all of a sudden it'll stop for about a half hour. Everything is kind of peaceful and calm, and then
it just whooshes.
Kind of go outside and look at the damage, and then starts again.
It's the hand of God, except he seems to pick by 50% chance and be about as good as a coin flip.
The ball sack of God.
Lost their job just for challenging the evolution theory.
as they
Using
should.
phrases like anti-evolution.
They're supposed to teach their job. A lot of like super religious fundamentalists. They're teaching our kids all this blah 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 about race and religion and sexuality. No, what actually happens, generally speaking, in 90+% of classrooms, is teachers just teach exactly what they are expected to teach. And so in a biology classroom, because evolution is the cornerstone of modern biology, they teach that. And it's generally not even the focus. It's just included because, it is the backbone. You start there and you build upwards.
It's not just every day, this is why you need to believe evolution, 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 evolution. This is evolution. You need to believe in evolution.
You're learning about evolution
Yeah.
when you're learning about Mandela's pea pods. So you're learning about it when you're learning about how viruses transfer. It just, this is evolution.
I am in favor of science. I'd like to challenge you tonight to show the audience what examples can you give of even a mechanism for how you can go from an amoeba-like creature, a single-celled creature, to an elephant.
If
what
you
is
were
the mechanism?
playing the Kent Hovind drinking game, please take your amoeba or Kent Hovind bingo or the Kent Hovind drinking bingo game. Now is your time.
It'd be one kind changing to another. We got that one. We got the amoeba. Yep.
Just checking them off.
Strawmanning evolution, one straw man at a time.
And I know this is super late night. It was like our opposite of our 5 p.m. stream. We decided to do a super late night
to watch Ken Hovind's Strawman evolution.
But he does it so uneloquently.
Very.
And where's the evidence? I taught biology for 15 years. We've seen plenty of mutations. Nobody's seen a beneficial mutation that I'm aware of. It would take trillions of beneficial mutations.
Brilliant.
To get a single-cell creature to change to an elephant or a whale or a pine tree. Over any amount of time. I'll give you all the time you want. We don't see this. It's not observational science. All we've ever seen in recorded history throughout the world is animals and plants bring forth after their kind. Dogs produce dogs. Pine trees produce pine trees, ducks produce ducks. There are no exceptions, none. So that's why you have to rely on what you call a fossil record. And I would point out there is no such thing as a fossil record. There are fossils.
Even though there is.
I've got a museum full of them here. Got some right there on the shelf beside me.
Stupidity.
We like fossils here. No question there's a lot of fossils. But they're all dead.
Did you catch that? They may be fossils, but they're all dead. So, are they really fossils?
So, what you're watching here is him hand waving away an entire line of evidence.
Basically just trying
hand waving it all away. The fossil record, they're all dead.
Let's see those fossils do anything now.
And you had any children. And nobody's found any fossils that you could demonstrate could be the father of any new kind of animal. All we observe is cows produce cows, dogs produce dogs, fish produce fish. There are no examples. So you choose to believe.
Those are all tautologies.
Yeah. That given enough time, it could happen. I just point out that's not science, it's nonsense. I get 12 minutes. Thank you, sir. I value the freedom of religion in America, and you have a right to your religion of evolutionism. You certainly have a right to that.
Oh, and I think we're talking about this before, that, if you ever talk with someone that, they say, look, evolution is a religion, and you then try to poke and prod them on their own religious views, and they say, hey, we're not having a religion debate. Well, please just point out that, isn't evolution our religion? guess we're having a religious debate after all. So while we're talking, one religion to another, what do you believe again? The rabbi that came back from the dead? Left for Dead 2? This time it's personal? Okay, sure.
He's coming back, Amy, and he is not going to be happy when he finds out what you've been doing with your pee-pee.
Kicking ass, taking names. Exactly. He's very interested about it, actually.
Oh, he can't stop thinking about it.
Religion, it's not science. There's no observation tells us any animal can produce, even can produce a different kind, let alone did. Where's the evidence that this happened? You think humans and apes have a common ancestor. Actually, you probably think humans and pine trees have a common ancestor. Where's the evidence? And you can't use any fossils.
More triggering.
Right. Next stage of the debate. Go ahead.
Like he just takes organs from plants and is like, are you telling me we're related to this organ from plant?
Well,
yeah, just not the organ. I mean, not specifically like that, but the bigger picture.
He's intentionally taking two things that are separated by about 1 billion years of divergent evolution. Since they diverged about 1 billion years ago, and they've diversified since then. So, yeah, they don't look anything like each other now. Congratulations, Kent. You've picked the most ridiculous example you think you could find.
Wesley says the fossils in Scripture are the dry bones. They are the remains of the 1/3 angels that followed Satan that cast out of heaven. Jesus transformed their flesh into the dinosaur bone shapes. But wait. Jesus transformed their flesh into dinosaur bone shapes.
Oh, Wesley.
It's like we were talking chicken nuggets earlier.
Wesley.
I want to say that's not too far away. But we're sending love no matter what you believe out there. And we'll eventually have that open mic, but keep on sending, those comments. James, myself and Amy Newman.
See what Gizmo thinks about that.
I think Gizmo's on board, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. So Kent also ends a little bit early by 20 seconds. So we are now going to switch over to RJ, and this will be for his 10-minute rebuttal. So let me set up the time.
Open Hovind.
RJ, the floor is yours.
Bingo, boy, deja vu all over again. Wow, I'm just getting the same old little shtick. In fact, it was exactly the same dodge that he used when I brought up the expanding sun. Kent said the sun expanded in the video. Matt Powell was clearly watching it, and he just jumped by 3 orders of magnitude there. He turned the 4,000 tons into 5 million tons per second. No, that's not good. Still do the math. And don't take either one of our word for that. The fake bird evolution issue is a scholarly methods issue. I don't care about what gods exist or not, what evolution exists or not, or anything else. When somebody misrepresents source data, that is a bad dog. That is a incompetent methodology. Anyone doing a junior high school term paper who misrepresented source material, who was as ignorant of the source material as Kent displays again and again and again, and which he did in the fake software thing, would get an F. It's not a matter of whether or not you're talking worldviews, or whether or not your soul is saved, or whether or not there are how many people believe or disbelieve in North Korea or any another matter. This is Kent relying on an incompetent secondary source, never even bothering to read the original source material, fiducia, or the criticisms of it.
And it's true, Sergey. When I ever come in contact with the earth and we're like getting lunch or something, I'm always like, oh my God, you look so young. But it's completely understandable.
Or getting up to speed. He did correctly say his view. Fossils don't matter to him. No amount of fossils. I told you right up front that was going to be his position. So the entire fossil record just disappears in his brain. However, when we're talking one kind to another, we have a wonderful example of a thing which I know Kent has never discussed and very few anti-evolutionists ever discuss, which is the reptile-mammal transition. Here we have objectively reptile-like synapsids on one end and full-blown mammals on the other, and over 100 million years, which of course Kent does not allow to be in existence. He wants to scrunch everything down into that time frame where it's all in the flood, presumably, what, 4,500 years ago, while the Egyptians weren't noticing while they were building the pyramids. Oops. Anyway, the reptile-mammal transition includes literally predicted forms. Where the probanognaathids and diarthognaathids were predicted decades in advance. A whole new
And he makes
form
a
of
good point in that we have history that contradicts most of the history of the Bible.
Yes.
You really have to not only put science versus the religious views of the Old Testament, you really need to put history versus the Old Testament.
It completely conflicts with actual history. Yeah.
life with a double jaw layout that no existing life form had, and yet was predicted entirely on evolutionary grounds. And it turns out what, God really loved Robert Broom and Darwin by creating life forms that match their predictions? No. That doesn't mesh. Plus, we know the embryology. Our own mammal embryology starts out with the reptile layout. It's the standard one of vertebrate amniotes. You find fish, you find amphibians using exactly the same thing. We can literally see that transformation happening in our own embryo as the dentary bone expands, just as we can see happening in 100 million years worth of synapsid fossils. We can see the articular quadrate,
Good morning,
which is the old
House
jaw
of
hinge,
Comments
which
out there. I see
starts out in our
Morpheus
embryo
sending
and then
love.
gets
Oh boy, here we go.
Uh-oh.
we even know the genes involved in it, the same genes that are used by the reptiles today to deal with the articular quadrate jaw structure are the same ones we use in our middle ear for their counterpart bones. We literally have the transitional fossils where the cartilage is still attached as an adult, another intermediate feature that was predicted on evolutionary grounds. And nobody in the anti-evolution business pays the slightest attention to it, and hence downstream with bottom feeder Kent, he doesn't know anything about it. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, a synapsid and a mammal are clearly separate kinds systematically. Every creationist would say so. But what is the kindology for the process in between? It turns out creationists don't do that. Kent doesn't do systematics at all, but I read the baraminology literature in great detail. There's only been one baraminology paper, one that came out in 2010, where they attempted to take a teeny tiny little slice, one little minor family of the therapsids, and he flushed a third of his data down the drain to do it, and then he decides, ooh, this is a separate kind. Well, if you're going to flush the data field, if you're going to obliterate all the relevant information, of course, you can get fixed kinds. He goes tunneling vision. Well, no dog has ever produced anything other than a dog. No fill in the blank never produces anything other than a fill in the blank. Well, of course not. That's not how evolution works. Evolution works by branching speciation, where any individual time slice is going to be completely natural.
And so it's funny. We learned about this through Atheist Jr. AJ was on just guest hosting with us, and we learned that
That's on
Kent
the video, yeah.
actually doesn't mute his microphone.
Or
Yeah.
you refuses to wear a headset.
Or a headset, I'm so sorry. And
Yeah.
well, not only does he wear his headset, but that would also, but it has to be both, because if you would mute,
You could mute yourself, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be at least one or the other, if not both. And so it'll go away every time that Kent is speaking, unfortunately. And yet, anytime that someone is speaking sensible,
It won't be Kent.
Yeah, it seems to have this little echo. So we are sending love out there. I didn't notice it until till really had the headset on, because I was listening to a little bit earlier, but it was through, I think, my phone. But we are sending love into the internetosphere, and we are Skeptic and Ranting. Is Young Earth Creationism True? We'll probably be going through probably about halfway of this. We'll go to about the Q&A, and then we'll open it up.
Maybe you can put increase the speed, maybe 1.25.
Sure. I'm gonna do 1.25.
Yeah, just get it. Do it.
either allopatric or sympatric speciation. Those are fancy buzzwords. You got to look them
Ken
up.
talks slow.
Because that's the wherewithal of how species do by either direct inline speciation, and we have evidence for that, particularly with foraminifera and some vertebrates, and then the allopatric one, which is branching speciation by geographic distribution, and we can see that in incipient forms with ring species and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's a huge technical literature on speciation, and anti-evolutionists miss most of that too. I don't have to guess at it, I measure it, and so bottom feeder Kent never gets within 100 miles of it. Somehow or other his curiosity shuts down when it comes to looking for any of that stuff. We've got the reptile-mammal transition that covers that huge swath where you have predicted forms. It's that in birds. Remember our little Phacoopteryx? Birds and mammals are the only two vertebrate classes to have appeared in the last 250 million years. We've got the slam dunk for them on the evolution side for the mammals. We've got the slam dunk also now for birds, because the field has moved on so far from Kent's 1990s version of science, or the version that he wants to call science, because we got a thing where we have known the structures and sisters from skin placodes that also produce the scales. Literally, you can take the scales that occur on the hind legs of birds, add retinoic acid to it, and they form feather beds. We don't have to guess at this. This is experiments on it. Alabardi's work and Crum and Brush worked out a lot of this material. Crum and Brush, by the way, were the ones that the Harwin Yaga posting was skipping past at 90 miles an hour. Remember, I put the video up on the linkage here. Thank you, James, for putting that in there. All the sources. That
You're welcome.
Your Kent's video and the Harwin Yaya piece and the Fiducia paper and all the others are all in the links in there, so you can follow up in the source description of my video. So for us to now understand so much about bird evolution, remember Kent doesn't allow change of kinds. I would love to see any baraminologist manage to use their own standards rigorously. We know, just admitted, that the horse sequence is what they call a monobaramin, which is a fancy little buzzword for an evolved lineage from little itty bitty Heracitherium all the way through all the transitional forms down to Equus. That Wood and Kavanaugh and all the rest conceded directly that this was a monobaramin by their own definition. They are conceding that that's the evolutionary lineage. Your average man on the street, if you showed them a Heracitherium, which is about the size of a collie dog and doesn't look anything at all like a horse, and a horse, they'd say, oh, those are different kinds. But the baraminologists know that's not true. Now, if we've got Heracitherium to Equus, how can you keep Homo galax from linking up with Heracitherium? Homo galax is almost identical. There's just some minor little variations going on. That's the lineage that leads to tapirs. Now, I'd love to see a baraminologist examine that feature, because pretty soon they're going to have Heracitherium and Homo galax as a monobaramin, and they're going to have Phenacodonts, the ancestors, as monobaramins, and pretty soon you're going to have giraffes spring in and artiodactyls all in general. You're going to have every critter running around on the veldt in Africa, all part of a gigantic monobaramin. They don't get to that stage because they turn their brains off. They go only so far until they start getting into trouble and realizing there's too much data for them to keep their kinds in order. And remember, the creationist has to have the kinds to get on the ark. They've got two bottlenecks to contend with. One is that every fossil that supposedly died in the flood had to have differentiated from the kinds on board the original creation event, and that those same kinds had to generate all the modern species. And both of those, if you start doing the math, had to take place in only 1,700 years, or thereabouts. That requires a speciation rate so preposterously fast that there is not a single creationist that I've ever seen, including any of the baraminologists, that have ever tried to defend it at the technical level, because it's nonsense. Whereas my 100-million-year-long reptile-mammal transition requires a speciation rate that's slow as molasses, exactly the speciation system that we can physically observe in the living.
Just want to send so much love out there to Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
Who is saying she's come out to support the awesome, fantastic, and wonderful Atheist Jr.
Thank you, Stacy.
Sending so much love, and thank you for
Thanks,
the
AJ.
support. And AJ is not only fantastic, I really do think that his specific wit and humor is just a really good sledgehammer towards Kent's nonsense.
Absolutely. He is a perfect adversary for Kent, because he's just such a good, classy person that it's perfect contrast with somebody like Kent.
Absolutely. And you could see in AJ's latest video where Kent was kind of going on about him. It really gets under his skin.
You only get views because you drop my name. Yeah,
and once again, I cannot keep reiterating the point that AJ made, which is no, Kent, it is not because you have like this swelling of support for you. It's because you are an a-hole, and people very much like watching your nonsense get dissected.
Absolutely.
And with the biogeography,
They like seeing him get called out.
I'm just about to the end of my
Exactly.
10 minutes, so I will shut down early and let Kent repeat his mantras.
So RJ is in 1 minute early, and we are going to switch it over now because Kent will have his 10-minute rebuttal. So, Kent, we're switching over to you. The floor is yours.
Hey, up early, huh, Nick?
Well, thank you, sir. I think that RJ continually calls me a bottom feeder. I hate to stoop to his level, but he certainly shows the zeal for his religion. I'll start calling him Altar Boy RJ, since he is such a religion.
Once again, we just want to thank Kent personally. I know it's a different denomination that he's taking a pot shot, but I just want to continually appreciate religious people who insult using religious language. I mean, if we've learned anything from Kent so far, it's that you don't want to be religious. You have to be, you should be an altar boy. I'm trying to remember. There was a third trifecta. But we should only believe things that we also have evidence for. So
Yeah. He's not going to stick with that one very long, huh?
what is up, Nick? We are having some fun talking. In fact, someone even says skeptic and ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True? Spoiler alert, no. Well, we hope to send lots of lovely tucks into bed and send in love for you, send love.
Sell it for believing that he went 6 billion years ago. So, Mr. Altar Boy, let me try to answer. You mentioned about a misrepresented source about the sun expanding. Let me explain in small words.
Cults. Okay? Cults. That was the trifecta. We have learned you don't want to be an altar boy, you don't want to be religious, and you don't want to be in a cult. So just remember that when you think about Ken Hovind.
I said it has been observed since 1836 that the sun is shrinking. Therefore, if we go back in time, we would have to expand the sun. And the number that I used was 5 feet per hour. Okay, that was the number arrived at by the data from 1836 Royal Observatory, Greenwich, England. The sun oscillates like a burning gas ball. But we just a few seconds ago is how much fuel is the sun burning up? And Google says,
I know. We try and wait to the end. We try to hold it within us, as I do often, but we can't help ourselves. No. Creationism isn't true. Damn it. We were hoping, or at least Kent was, but he just couldn't get there. And so
he'll just pretend it is.
Exactly. You just need to use your imagination.
Have faith.
That's what he says, right? You just got to use that imagination. But Wesley, Twitch is not the link. However, let me tell you, we do triple stream on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitch. So if you would like to join us on there, it is one of our goals, actually, to nurture the Twitch community and get multiple people having a chat down on there. In fact, if you would like to be a mod for either Facebook or Twitch, anyone out there, feel free to reach out to me on Discord or otherwise, and we'll have you modded up.
We'll consider it.
Where's that? No, 600 million tons.
Yes,
per
we
second.
are looking for skeptics and science-minded and allies.
Rational.
Yes,
people.
rational, yes.
The fuel the sun is burning, according to Google, you can Google it, 600 million tons per second. So one of our visitors here from Germany, who's 18 years old, did the quick math at 600 million tons per second. I'm assuming his numbers are correct. You're pretty good at math, right? That would be 8.7 septillion with SEPT, million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion, septillion, 8.7 septillion tons the sun has lost in 4.6 billion years. If it is burning 600 million tons a second. Now let me explain it again. If the sun is losing mass at the rate we've observed since in recorded history, since they've measured it, going back in time, imagining going back billions of years creates a problem for you. If the sun is more massive, the gravity is stronger. gravity of any planet is directly proportional to its mass. Okay, so the sun is going to increase the gravitational pull of the sun, and all of the solar system is going to be upset. You cannot have a shrinking sun burning 600 million tons of fuel per second and maintain a smooth solar system for. I know you need billions of years. I know you need that. I'm sorry, it's not available. You can't have it. There are many ways to prove the Earth cannot be the 4.6 billion years that the textbooks teach. Another one I use in my seminar is the moon is going around the Earth, but the moon is gradually receding. I think NASA's latest number is 1.6 inches per year. The moon is leaving Earth. It's going out of its orbit, slowly expanding the oval-shaped orbit. It has apogee and perigee and all that stuff. But the moon's orbit is expanding. I don't think anybody argues with that. I've never heard evolutionists disagree. That, of course, means it used to be closer.
Once again,
I don't know of any mechanism.
Just want to point out very quickly that he jumps consistently from biology to cosmology. And so when he says things like evolutionists, he really does just mean people who believe in science.
That would change the direction of the moon to go from closer to further. That's not a living object, you know. So assuming that this recession rate of 1.6 inches per year can be extrapolated back in time, all the data indicates, and I cover this in my seminar with primary sources, that the data indicates the moon orbit would collapse. If you could go back in time, it would collapse 1.4 billion years ago. 1.4. Now the textbooks are teaching the kids the Earth is 4.6 billion. Just the moon receding from the Earth says that is not possible. I know you need billions of years, and I'm going to hear like pulling a pacifier out of a baby's mouth. You're going to scream and cry over this because you have to have billions of years to turn your rock into a prince or your frog to a prince. And I do appreciate your zeal, Mr. Altar Boy, for your religion. But that's all it is a religious belief. Any animal has ever changed. You use all these big words of all these fossils that they find. I point out you're missing the whole point.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ken Hovind, the enemy of religion, or at least a good promoter of creating atheists.
There weren't fossils. There are trillions of fossils. It's not a record. None of the fossils you find in the ground have a date stamped on them. None of them have a name stamped on them. None of them tell if they had any children, let alone different children. And nobody's ever observed any living animal produce a different kind of offspring. And yet you believe with...
By BT dubs, no one has ever seen a rib woman. No one has ever seen a talking snake with legs. No one has ever seen a man 3 days after decomposition resurrect from the dead. Another thing I love about the resurrection, which I've just been thinking about more and more lately, is just the notion that he left after he came back from the dead. I'm sorry, what a cheap cop-out that is. Like, you come back from the dead, like one of the most quote-unquote important events in human history, and then you're just like, peace out, y'all. Yeah, sure. Along with all the evidence that you came back from the dead. In fact, the only evidence they have that he came back from the dead is they're like, well, show us the body. I'm like, no, screw you. Show us him. You show me the body.
But Amy, how much more blessed do you want to be for believing it when you had no evidence?
Oh, exactly.
Than those who did have evidence. You're going to be even so much more blessed,
So
Amy.
much more blessed. I'm going to just be in a circle and they're just going to be blessing all over me.
Absolutely.
Faith that these fossils are capable of doing something that no animal today can do, which is produce something other than its kind. Dogs produce dogs, cows produce cows. As far as reptiles turning to birds, that is absurd at so many levels. Okay, first place, there are still reptiles today. Okay, there are still birds today. They still have babies.
Well, specifically, dinosaurs became birds. Like, they really do straw man the model. But okay.
Of course.
Every reptile produces a baby reptile. Every bird produces a baby bird. Now, if you want to believe, like SpongeBob imagination stuff, long ago and far away, they were able to do something different, then you're welcome to believe that. But that is a religious belief. It is not science. It's nonsense. And you ought to teach that in a private school to other people of like mind who would like to have their kids taught that. But no, you're not content because you know roughly 8 or 10% of the American population to be atheistic, and you want this taught. We all have to pay for your religion to be taught. I resent that. So I'm trying to cover your points here. That no fossils matter. That's my point. I simply say when you find bones in the dirt, you cannot prove it had any children. In a court of law, no fossils would count as evidence for evolution. But it doesn't have to be given in a court of law.
That is an extremely weird statement because, well, first of all, evolution has actually been put to the test in the court of law, unfortunately. It has always been found scientific, fortunately, when pushed against by these creationists. I hate to use the word wah. It rhymes with knack knobs. That's what it rhymes with.
But the thing is that courts of law operate on. You don't put science in a court of law. Like, scientists works on consensus, and the standards of proof are totally different. We're not putting somebody in prison in science, where you need a much higher standard of evidence for that. We're just saying, what do we reasonably know? But we can always update the model later as more data comes in.
And speaking of PSAs, science is not a democracy. Like, it's not about how many people or the popularity of something. It's that you are driven to something via peer review through the fact that people who disagree with you try to prove you wrong. And when they fail to do so, they end up becoming the biggest proponents for the model. Up until everyone tests and is convinced.
Yeah.
To convince the freshman college student that this counts, because that student is a teacher. So the teacher has an academic advantage.
I would love to get student Dr. Ben. A shout out to him on YouTube, I think, and he does TikTok, who I would love to see debate Kent, because I will take a medical student over, let's just say, Dr. Mill Hovind any day.
Advantage over the student, and you better believe it and spit it back up on the test, or you're not, unless you pretend that you believe this stuff. All the fossils they find are dead. You can't prove they had any.
Once again,
we don't have to.
Like, but I just love that notion. Like, he's like saying that like it should be a surprising thing. Like, every fossil they've found so far has been dead. Isn't that suspicious? No, Kent. No, that's what a fossil is. Like, you are.
He's trying to be like ironic about it. Like, yeah, of course. Like I think it's like an attempt at humor. Like, but the thing is, we don't need to prove that a particular fossil had babies, because all we're getting is a snapshot at where a species was in its evolutionary journey. And while we might not know whether one fossil had kids, we do know that they had parents. So we do know they are not far separate from a breeding population of that species. So it is reasonable to assume that there are breeding members of that species actively producing offspring.
Yeah.
Children, you certainly can't prove they had different children. And arranging things in order that you would like it to happen, going from a reptile to a bird, is silly. I can arrange a bicycle and then a tricycle and then a four-wheeler, 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 4-wheelers. Wow, that's proof of something. No, it's an artificial arrangement that I did. And arranging fossils in order, or arranging nuts and bolts in order, or screws and nails, or anything, is not proof that it happened that way. It's a religious.
Yeah, because those things don't evolve. The organisms do.
I'll buy the next candle that you need. Okay, but you're offering a religious belief, not a scientific theory that can be tested. Predictable forms, you predict based. I could put a 2-wheel bicycle and a 4-wheeler and predict there's probably something between the 3 wheels. Wow, and search around, and sure enough, there's a 3-wheeler. That's not proof that it happened. Okay, you're looking for a predictable form. Let's see, reptiles to mammals, 100 million years. I would challenge 100 million, obviously. So I do 600 million. I'm supposed to rebut all your points you brought up. These are the facts from Nikita, who's here visiting from Russia and now lately living in Germany. So 8.704 times 10 to the 24th tons of fuel the sun would have burned up if it were 4.6 billion years old. Now, I understand there's a surface area to volume difference as it shrinks, as the sun is going back in time. A larger sun might change the rate of consumption. Logarithmic back even more, burning more if it was bigger. So 600 million tons of current rate per second is probably slowed down from what it was. I'd have to do some research on that. The point is,
what's up, Wesley on Twitch?
Even though you need it, I know it's going to be like pulling a pacifier out of a baby's mouth. The Earth cannot be billions. So, period. I got 2 minutes left. Okay. As far as transitional fossils, I point out, there aren't any. There are no transitional fossils. There are no fossils that count as evolution, as evidence for anything. And if you find fossils again, you cannot prove it any children. As far as species, well, I think we have a variety of species, no question. There are many varieties of animals. But proving they all have a relationship oh, there's the board. Okay, here we go. Proof that it happened. We have one of our displays at Dinosaur Adventureland.
Becoming a prop comic.
Evolution of the screw from itty bitty to big. I can arrange them in order. That proves how it happened. After all, we
screws don't evolve.
So there's all
Organisms
three. That's the display we're working on. Come on down, by the way. RJ to Dinosaur Adventureland. I'll give you a tour of the place. Right around the four-wheeler, you'll really enjoy it down here. It's a lot of fun.
Screws don't
we have kids
produce offspring with variation.
They're enjoying it, and they're learning real science. That God made the world, and He did it in 6 days. And animals produce after their kind.
Definitely
so, by the way,
sense.
After their kind. So,
like, I really, if you think the world was created in a literal 6 days, that is Disney princess logic. I really, he talks about SpongeBob. That is a fairy tale. Okay, I can
an
tell
obvious fairy tale.
Exactly.
Obvious fairy tale.
Factually, the world, the universe did not come about in 6 days. But thank you.
Evolution. We've never seen a bird produce a non-bird. The horse series, I'm surprised you're still using the horse series. You have to know that's been proven wrong back in 1950.
Oh, totally proven wrong. Totally proven wrong.
Horses produce horses.
They just say things have been proven wrong when they have not been proven wrong.
No, any of those animals produce their kind. I got a clock right here too. Look at that. See, there we go. Okay. So
30-second warning.
You think we don't have a bottleneck? Two of each kind getting off the ark.
It's so triggered.
For heaven's sake, you believe all the animals today came from a rock.
A rock, Grandpa?
Bottleneck, and the rock came from nothing. You got two big bottlenecks. All right, thank you. Your turn.
All right, so Kent ends with 10 minutes or 10 seconds left,
on
and
the inside that he's like, you think that your grandparents came from a rock, and there is laughter from the crowd. It's just a little bit of me dies on the inside.
Yeah.
But we're sending love clearly to anyone who wears Hawaiian t-shirts and glasses.
Going to now move on to the 8-minute rebuttal and / closing statements. So these will be the last formal statements from each side. And as mentioned, we started with RJ, so of course we'll have RJ go next, and then we'll have Kent finish it off. So after that, we'll go to the Q&A. And for those of you who are listening,
so after the finishing statements, we are actually going to open up for the open mic. Whether you are atheist or theist, once again, come as you are. Just not on my sheets. All I'm asking for is be nice. Don't make me have to do extra laundry. The link will be sent into YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So no matter where you are, we will get that link in there. We're just going to let our two interlocutors do their final speeches. I do want to give a final shout out as well, because the wonderful James from Modern Day Debate hosted this debate, and they have many awesome, fantastic debates on there that you should go check out.
Feel free to leave any questions. I will try my best to keep up, and we'll try to continue adding questions to the piles for each speaker. So switching back to RJ.
There are some creationists in the mix, so we should get some good questions.
There definitely are. So that's great. We have questions for both sides. And thank you for that to the audience. And we are switching back to RJ. So RJ, 8 minutes, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, it's the same pattern that's going on. By the way, the point I was making about the 1996 video was that Kent said 4,000, not 4 million. And by the way, I'll be putting up some links. I too can do Google searching. There's some physicists who talk about this whole matter, and when you do all the math and take into account all the stuff, no, it doesn't mean the sun is billions of years old. And plus, also with different mass, the orbit of the Earth is different. There's a whole bunch of other little dynamics that go into it. Anyway, I like the fact that he dances around the horse matter.
Even when fast, I just want to point out that was a really clean soundbite. I just really like it. Just want to point that out. Okay, moving forward.
Take it up with me. Please take it up with Todd Wood and Kavanaugh and the baraminologist. If you want to write a detailed baraminology paper and tell them that it is not true that Homo galax and Dinohippus and all the others are monobaramanic with horses, fine and dandy, you do it, and I will be looking forward to your paper. But for you to argue that the baraminology and the speciation literature doesn't exist.
Also, that phylogeny challenge really has me thinking. That's going to be one of my new... I took Poof or Drown from Pine Creek. I think I'm going to have to take that from R and Raw. Just give me an animal that you, or any other creature, and from any walk of life
that you think we're not related to, and let's really talk about why.
Yeah. Show us where the evolutionary tree breaks down.
And I've also noticed that they, you know, not to drill on my same consciousness thing over and over and over, but it really just seems that many creationists just think that the only true quote unquote living organisms are this small branch that we call animals, which, I mean, I get it. That's us. We're a little bit biased towards us, but my lordy, have a little perspective.
Yeah, they're not known for that.
Yeah, or logistics.
In your little teeny box. No, that's not really going to work out on that. What we've got from Kent is vintage Kent Hovind. It's the same pattern. It's the same argument. I'm
like a
assuming
fine
he's
wine.
piece with a plea for people to find Christ, because that's his thing. It's an evangelical search. You'll notice I haven't been discussing God here. I've been discussing physical evolution. I've been discussing science evidence. I predicted in advance that Kent would not allow fossils to mean anything. We can tell a lot about fossils. We can tell about the muscle attachments to them. We can tell about the environment they lived in because of the element balances to things. We can tell about other things about them by their the taphonomy of how they were found in the deposit. You can tell if something is living in an estuary or if it's on a floodplain or any of these other kinds of dynamics. There's a huge technical literature here, and of which, if we were to get Kent to say, have you read any technical literature on this? Have you read this paper or this paper or this paper? I think we get a long string of those on that, and we can tell that from his behavior regarding the Thecosopteryx thing. The material on you'll see how he literally said it doesn't matter how many fossils you have for the birds. So he doesn't have to bother looking at them. He doesn't have to worry about doing any systematics. He doesn't have to worry about his own model, because his model is no evolution. God did it. 6 days, everything is fake. I'm the altar boy, RJ, a little bit of things there. Well, I am happy to be an altar boy. I am an altar boy to the scholarly methods altar. The notion that you play fair with your sources. You look at all the source material available. You don't play fast and loose, and you don't rely on secondary sources. You source addict you. You look at primary sources. It is 2018. You can manage to Google find stuff, but yet you won't Google all of it. And you've never worked out a model. So if you want to get into the baraminology field, please do so. Get some stuff at Answers in Genesis in their research journal. Let's see you write an article out full rather than just doing video debates. And let's see whether you can put your rubber to the road and work out a model that even can persuade creationists as to what's going on. I'll want to see it. I'll want to see the sources that you use for it. I want to look at the systematics and taxonomy. And my little altar boy mind is going to be very, very carefully paying attention to it. But I don't want the priesthood of creationism to tell this altar boy how reason works. I'm 4 minutes in, and I don't think anything is beyond just mere repetition. I'm done. I want to get to the Q&A. Add 4 minutes to the Q&A.
Sure, I think that works fine. Adding 4 minutes to Q&A, not a problem. And yes, finishing 4 minutes early, that's RJ. And now we're going to the last formal statement. So this is going to be an 8-minute statement by Kent. And this will also be, as I mentioned, the last formal statement before the Q&A. So,
which means this is going to be the last statement before we actually go into the open mic. So I think this is now going to be a good time to tee up that open mic.
That's right, you altar boy, you.
That's right. Oh my. Well, I may not be an altar boy, but let me tell you something, James. I'm good at getting down on my knees. What were we talking about? We were actually talking about getting that StreamYard link out.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you were on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. If you do join us early, know that we'll be getting through the little bit of end, but take your time either way, because we are skeptic and ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True? We're also looking for opposing views. James and I can't help ourselves. So
yeah, it's an addiction.
Kent, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, sir. No, I'll try not to take the whole 8 minutes, and I would agree. We need more Q here. I'm just going to answer one of his many topics he brought up here, though I'm willing to take the rest of them if we have time. He said, you never work out a model. Let me explain very simply the model that I believe is workable and that I would defend.
Here we go.
All the different varieties of animals and plants.
My body is
6 days,
ready.
just as it says in the Bible.
Oh, did you see that one coming, Amy?
Pine tree variety. We have pine trees over our property here in Lenox, Alabama. He gave those
Pine Creek variety
of offspring. Their gene code is pretty complex. Some have longer needles.
I would love
some
to
have
ask
shorter needles, some have
Kent
thicker.
the poofer drown question.
I know what he would say, because he's been asked that before. Well, God had to use a flood so they would leave evidence. That way you can look in the geology of the earth and you can know evidence that there was a flood. If the Bible says the scoffers will be ignorant of the flood and the coming judgment, you're ignorant of that flood. Because you don't want to believe God has a right to judge his
I looked
his
right
creation.
in the fossil and it said flood.
Because if there's a flood, that means God has the right to judge his creation. He's going to judge you, Amy. You're going to be in big trouble that day.
And who are you to judge God? Except for the only people that can.
Yeah, he's going to go to the mafia boss argument. Well, God can flood the world if he wants to. He's God. What are you going to do about it? I mean, if he just wakes up one day and decides he's going to flood the world and kill everybody alive, he's going to do that. You don't like it? Tough.
Brought you into this land, brought you out of the land of Egypt, can put you back in there.
Yeah. You got him into Egypt in the first place,
Some
right?
have deeper roots, some have shallow roots, but they're still pine trees. They will always bring forth after their kind. He made kind, which might include the fox and the, I believe it probably does, and I'm not sure exactly how far the bear gave the dog the ability to produce a variety of offspring, amazingly complex, so that some of those dogs can hold the weather. And so if you took all the dogs in the world loose,
I think he was lagging a
within
little there.
couple of years, the ones
His technology used to be really bad.
And therefore, the next generation, because you don't have babies. So probably after a few generations of all the dogs living in Alaska, if we went up and revisited the dog population, we would find they all look similar to a dingo. I mean, I'm similar to a husky, or a wolf, some type of dog with
a wolf
fur and capable of handling
exactly
by the same token.
A wolf.
It's already in the gene code of the dog. The ability to produce thicker fur or longer fur is already in the gene code. So my model would say the originally created dog kind can produce a variety of offspring within certain limits, up to thick fur for Alaska, or really thin fur, or able to handle the heat like the dingoes or the fennec fox that we talked about tonight in the Sahara Desert. So I think God gave the original dog kind a genetic code that is amazingly complex. When you get a car, my Ford, my Mercury Grand Marquis 2007 model, it has a heater and an air conditioner. Why would they put a heater and an air conditioner in the same car? Because some of them go to warm climate, some of them go to cold climate. And so that's planning ahead on the part of Mercury or Ford Corporation, put both a heater and an air conditioner. So I think the creator put the genetic code in the dogs to produce dogs that can handle heat and dogs that can handle cold. But there are limits to how much it can go.
What is up,
you might get a dog that can
Smokey?
handle up to 130
It's a
degrees,
short
like the
answer.
fennec fox does in the Sahara Desert, but you will never get a dog that can handle 10,000 degrees.
Long
Never, won't happen.
answer.
Okay? There are big dogs and little dogs. There are Great Danes and
No.
Chihuahuas. That was already in the genetic
Yeah,
code.
basically.
And if you keep selecting the slice of code that gets the smallest ones, you might end up with a Chihuahua again. Okay. But you're never going to get a dog as small as a flea. But there are animals as small as a flea, like a flea. Okay? And you may get bigger dogs like the Great Dane. Just by selecting bigness out of the gene code, like the Russian experiments in the 1950s, they've been selecting for one trait only with foxes.
I love it. Once again,
Tameness.
cutting edge technology he likes.
Dogs the size of a flea, right? Cutting edge
1950s.
genetics. Well, have you heard when he says a pig the size of Texas? And it's like there are limits to the size of animals, but those are imposed by physics, not genetics. You can't have an animal that big due to physical limitations of having something that big.
Yeah, well, there's an arms race. Sometimes they'll ask, well, why do we love big brains? Well, why aren't our brains like this big? You know, why aren't they, as Ken Hovind would,
there's a
why aren't they
cost.
15 foot long? Yeah, there's a cost, exactly, between what the biological women can actually give birth to and then how big our brains can be. We're very lucky that we actually have such big brains, and it also takes a toll. That's why
they take a tons of our resources.
Exactly. It's why we raise our young, and a deer can just basically come out and run instead of having to, take time.
They select the tame babies out of the litter, and then they let those breed for the next generation. And in 70 years now, they've got tame foxes that act like dogs, floppy ears. Breeding cycle is different. They're pure fox. but they've selected a slice of the gene code for tameness. They do the same with fighting dogs, pit bulls. You select for meanness. But see, it's already in the gene code. A dog that can handle cold weather, like Alaska weather, like the Husky. You're never going to get a dog that has a central heater with be it propane, electric, or gas. It doesn't happen. Okay, they've been selecting.
That's not a biological trait.
In the Kentucky Derby, they've only shaved off a few seconds in the last 100 years of the average winning time, from 127 to 123 seconds around the track.
That's a physical limitation. That's not. That has nothing to do with evolution.
There is a limit. All they've
we
done,
see the same thing with in baseball with
how do we get new information into the genetic code?
Like we see the same thing like in baseball, like you're like the fastest fastball that's ever been thrown is like, I don't know, 104, 105 miles an hour. Oh, well, why can't they just get stronger and throw faster? It's because we are approaching the absolute limit of what the human arm is capable of doing without the ligaments and tendons, you know, and the rotator cuff just completely
and
giving
those
out.
already tend to be the extremes, just like the Olympics in general in
Right.
sports.
No, and they have baseball pitchers, they injure their tendons and ligaments and rotator cuffs all the time throwing those balls. It's
Exactly.
just
Well,
the limit of the
at a certain
arm.
point, the Young Earth Creationist is just trying to be like wish fulfillment. Well, why don't we have big brains? And why can't we like run 70 miles an hour? I don't know. I mean, aren't you guys proposing that it was just poofed and that it was the most amazing design answer?
Why can't we make a horse eventually run as fast as the speed of light? I mean, there are things that go as fast as the speed of light, Amy, like light. So why can't we make a horse go that fast?
Or fishes, then I think that Jesus would start making them.
Or now, what he usually says in his seminar is he'll say, well, why don't they just make the horses grow wings and fly around the track? Or he's also said, why, you know, rabbits have been running away from wolves for a long time, but why didn't they just evolve wings and fly away? Like, you can't just pick some novel trait that you think evolution should have done. It's a random process.
It is literally wish fulfillment.
It figures out ways to make the organism survive. It doesn't have to pick that particular way. In term of rabbits, they survive because they are fast on their feet. They have a lot of babies, so it doesn't matter if a couple of them get caught. They have a fuck ton.
Because it's just about passing your genes on.
Babies, right? So that's how they get around that.
The rabbit model.
A lot simpler than evolving wings.
Indeed.
No evolutionist has ever answered that question. Where is new, helpful, useful information
evolutionist
coming from?
either.
To change a single-cell creature to an elephant, you have to add some things like legs and a trunk.
Mutations are new information. Right? It is new information.
Yeah, that's another point. They really dislike this whole, like, nothing can ever add information, even though clearly evolution is adding new... the thing I always like to say is, the example is someone that has web hands or feet could be, if we had a water-based world, selected for. This is something that not everyone has.
If we were more aquatic.
Yeah. And there are easy examples to show how this effect, what I was using was moths or butterflies, whichever one you want to pick. If you had red and green and you are in a forest, which do you think is going to be naturally selected for and have better camouflage? Well, one by one, the red is going to be picked off until there's nothing but green moths or butterflies left.
Well, pseudonym, the mutations are random, but the environment then selects which mutations happen to be favored by the environment.
Because the moths probably don't even know what color they are. Like,
they might not be able to see color.
Exactly. And so being red or green may feel like nothing. And so it's hard for, I think, creationists to imagine, because they just think of like mutations of like as X-Men. Like I swear that is what they think is going on when it's
large
really
scale radical
much
changes.
more mundane.
Very
and,
subtle usually.
Yeah, it is just a difference in colors
Have you-
among other things. Thousands,
What-
if not millions, of different traits.
Well, you mentioned moths. Are you familiar with the peppered moth experiment and the research they did back in England?
I'm not, but now
It's an evolutionary experiment, and what they did is they had dark moths and white moths in England, and before the Industrial Revolution, the moths that did overwhelmingly better were the white moths. Then, as they started putting lots of soot into the air, and the things that they could land on started to get covered in soot, then the darker moths
Change
started
the
to blend in
environment.
better. And so the white moths were the ones getting eaten by the birds. And they cite that as evidence of evolution. Of course, Ken Hovind goes, it's still a moth. But all evolution
Always
is
will be.
the allelic change in the reproductive population. But he went as far as to say that, oh, they faked the experiment because they had to put little pins and pin the moths to trees because no moths were ever found on a tree.
And a good way to explain that is that no matter how far we go into the future, humans will always be primates. We will always be mammals. And we will always have a backbone from which we got from fish.
A vertebrate, yeah.
Yes. And so it doesn't matter how far, you can see our ancestral lineage with us because it's always there. It's that we get other traits. The old stick that you cannot prove a fossil had children. I know. This really is bad stand-up. I'm trying to figure it out because, yes, thank you. Really? It didn't give birth to more fossils? He is on that level. Pseudonym. So it is, the mutations are often random. I won't say always, because if you're hanging around a nuclear power plant, it may be less random than you think it is. But even standing out in the sun, and
5G
sunbathing
phone.
and all that stuff, 5G, yeah, well, who knows? I know so many random, but the actual environment is actually a selective pressure. And so
Definitely.
the fact that the forest is green is the selective pressure, because green becomes what it is selecting for, or whatever matches better. It could be a multitude. It could be, like James was saying, if it's a snowy forest, it's going to actually probably select for snowy moths. And so
Lighter
it just
colored.
depends on where the actual environment is. It's going to look for those sort of mutations. And I mean, look, not in an anthropomorphic way, because it's not a being. It's just a force of nature, like gravity grinding down on things.
And a moth is never going to not be a moth, because in order for it to do that, it would have to go backwards on the evolutionary tree and jump over to some other lineage.
Indeed.
But that's not how it works. That train has already passed. It's a moth. All its descendants will be moths.
Forever and ever.
Creationists, they just have no perspective. They just have no idea what's going on and how the species always diversify. And they always diversify by modifying what's there. That's all evolution has to work with. It can't poof things out of nothing like God can.
Yeah. We have to
And
actually
like what
find out what really happened.
Mad City Jack. Yeah, that's why I was saying before. We know that they were not too separated from a breeding population, because they had parents that were breeding and that had. You don't need to know whether that particular one. We're getting a snapshot at where that species was on its evolutionary journey. And Ken Hovind, he likes to point out sometimes, like when people are talking about, oh, you guys give me a hard time about kind, but ooh, the word species, oh, that's hard to define too. And do you know why that is? That's because all species are transitional, and we are always at some
Indeed.
point in that transition, and it's very hard to draw that
James,
line.
say it one more time. Come on.
We are all on that process of transitioning because we are all transitional species. Yeah, I know you get. Yeah,
I can't help
and
myself.
yeah, she can't help it, guys. They'll get used to it. They know you. But yeah,
But it's
so
true. We are, because
it's
that is one of their gotcha questions. Well, where's all the transitional species? We're finding us and us, so now we gotta. Yes, because we are all a transitional species
So,
in the
yeah.
way that our mother and father are the same species as us, and our children will also be the same species as us. But within that generation to generation to generation is a 0.000000001% difference
Yeah.
that you are going and adding on to the list of genetics.
and that change is so small that from 1,000 generations before, 1,000 generations back, it would be very hard to detect any noticeable change. But we're not talking in orders of 1,000 generations. We're talking tens of thousands of generations before you will notice substantial real differences that will add up to the point where you can be able to visually detect them.
But if you disagree with us, if you are a atheist, if you are a skeptic, or you are just an
Creationist.
ally of science,
If you're a creationist.
feel free to join us. But if you are also a young Earth creationist, we are definitely looking for you to join as well, so that you can tell us where we are all wrong. You can
Otherwise, we're just going
right
to keep
there.
listening to Ken Hovind.
Exactly. And look, James, they often tell us, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the fundamentalists seem to often tell us that we're just reading it literally. You got to stop reading it literally.
So you have to add new information, and you guys do not have a mechanism for that. You have fairy tale, SpongeBob imagination stuff. You have great religious belief and zeal, and I appreciate your zeal, but it's not science. No mechanism in evolution for any new information to be added. The other bottleneck you run into is if you got one of these amoeba to develop a leg, who's it going to marry? You got to get two of these sex at the same time in history, and they got to find each other and be interested. You talk about bottleneck. So my model is God made the kinds of animals. I don't know how many. If I had to pick a number, I'd say 8,000 kinds of animals on land. That
Let me ask you a question, Amy.
Created that number out of his butt. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh, I was going to say, so if, well, not you specifically, but if another man and woman get married and they decide to have kids, and only one of the partners has blonde hair, can that trait be passed down to the kids, or would both parents have to have it? No. You could still get a blonde hair kid even with only one parent. You don't need both parents to have the exact same mutation for it to get passed down. He always says that. He tries to be funny, like, oh, an amoeba would have to find another amoeba to marry, of course.
I mean, I hate to bring up it a third time, but I think he really just needs to have that pea plant discussion. I think he just needs to see the charts where it's green over here and yellow over here, and then this one turns out a green yellow over here, but it's sometimes it's, vice versa, a little bit more and a little bit less.
You don't need both parents to have the same mutation for it to get passed down. It can get passed down from just one.
Pseudonym says, are you saying it's really not like Pokemon when considering the environment? No, it doesn't work like Pokemon. I wish
like Avatar.
Did. So Pokemon is you could call that a form of evolution, but it never is like a single moment where it goes bloop, 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 and you have a a Pikachu turn into a Raichu. I'm trying to hold my nerd cred badge right now.
I mean, the closest thing I could cover it or analogize it to would be the evolution of language. How if you
Sure.
go back, if you went back every single year and you read something in the English language, there would be no point where from one year to the next it would be completely different. It would always be pretty similar year to year. You might see a new word here, a new word there, a new way of saying something here or there, but
as it enters the culture.
right. But it would always be minor and it would still be understandable, but from year to year. So if you went back 100 years, you'd understand almost all of it. If you went back 200, you'd still probably understand 90, 95% of it. If you go back 1,000 years, you'll understand almost none of it. How did that happen? Was there like one day where all the English speakers got together and they said, okay, we're going to shift from Old English to Middle English tomorrow. Okay, now we're all speaking Middle English.
By decree.
Right. No, that's not how it happened. It happened by slow accumulation of changes. And there are periods where there's more rapid changes, like when English abandoned the use of genders, which happened over, I think, about 100-year period between where it started to abandon grammatical gender to the point where it's completely purged from the language all over. Existed, I think, in a couple places in Wales a little bit longer, but it was out of the language. And then when, of course, you had the Norman conquest and English adopted a lot of French words, that was a change. But largely, most of the changes are going to be very small and accumulate over time.
Though it's not the size of the change that matters, James. It's how you evolve.
And like Matt Dillahunty said, there's no first speaker of Italian. It's not like
Indeed.
parents who spoke Latin gave birth and their child then spoke Italian. It was a slow transition over time. And
Gradual changes.
to try to pinpoint that exact moment where is a gray area. It might not be able to pick an exact moment where the language shifted.
No capacity to understand gradients or a spectrum.
Right.
Like it really is one of the best examples of black and white thinking. It has to be this or this. The sheep give birth to the sheep, and the giraffe give birth to the giraffe, and that's it.
One kind, it's either a sheep or it's not a sheep.
Yeah. I mean, really, just think more than a few generations, and we can get there. That's all he's like, I'll give you all the time. I'll give you all the time in the world. We don't need all the time in the world. We do need. I mean, I guess if you want to give us all the time on the planet, that's really all we need if we're going world. But I mean, COVID, whether vaccines, whatever you want to think about it, the fact that it was one thing and is now another.
It's still a virus.
It's
still a virus.
A virus become a virus, and it always will, forever and ever some more. Even
when you show them like these very rare events where, like, algae becoming because that's the thing. How do you get from a single cell to multicellular? Even then, when you show him evidence of it, he'll still just hand wave that away and say, that's not really multicellular, that's a colony. Well, no, Kent, it's not a colony, because once they've gone multicellular, they can't then revert back to being single-celled organisms. It will kill the organism if it were to do that. It is truly become a multicellular organism. And there's other models for how a single-celled organism could become multicellular.
And it fractals in other weird ways. My best example would be the Manowar, in which a Manowar is actually a bunch of if we as multicellular organisms are a bunch of single-celled organisms super glued together, a manowar is a bunch of multicellular organisms put together. On the microscopic level, they are not single-celled organisms. They are eukaryotic animals as a colonial species making one big animal. It's cool.
But they can't.
I love it.
They can't separate and survive.
No,
can
they can't.
Right.
Exactly. In many ways, they are like a hybrid between
Right.
what you would expect on the micro landscape, but then they also, some of them are free roaming, like they can move within the organism and stuff, and so they're not completely attached, and so it's complicated, but just as fantastic and beautiful. Exactly. I really just don't think they understand.
Well, it's like when they would say, well,
Right.
if we evolved from apes, why are there still apes?
I know. If Americans came from, Europe, why are there still Europeans? Or insert whatever country.
Well,
exactly.
The thing is, we share a common ancestor. And from that ancestor, several branches grew off, and we were one of those branches. Chimpanzees were another one of those branches.
Exactly. We are apes, and we have ape brothers and sisters. In fact, the funny thing is that we are exactly like a hybrid between a chimpanzee and a bonobo. Is that the chimpanzees tend to be more warlike and tend to be patriarchal, and the bonobos are more sex dominated and tend to be matriarchal. And then there are humans, which can go either way. We tend to love and war, but we're all apes. We are all apes. We're always going to be apes. That's the other important thing.
Well, it's funny when they first started doing research. I was doing research for my Ken Hovind debate, and like when they first started classifying animals, I think it was Linnaeus who said, "Show me how humans are not apes," because by any definition when he was trying to classify them, by any definition, I can't come up with a reason why humans would not be apes. And then some of the people they just arbitrarily made clades that excluded humans, like all except for humans. They just arbitrarily exclude them just because they didn't want to tell people that we were apes. Yeah, because a lot of these people, they would be okay. They could understand, okay, maybe the animals evolved, but God had to make humans special because we've got the Bible and Adam and Eve and animal evolution. They could swallow that, but they weren't quite ready to give up on. They weren't quite ready to give up on God, and that seems like it would require a special creation, even though some of them have still given up on that. They're okay even with human evolution.
He didn't have to take the fish on the ark. Obviously, they had plenty of water outside. And he didn't have to take bugs, by the way, because he said, bring those in whose nostrils is the breath of life, and bugs don't have nostrils.
Bring the creeper things.
My model has
in other
not changed
words,
because
brain
it's
bug,
right.
you get to live.
God made everything in 6 days. Noah took 2 of each kind on the ark, and animals there have been a variety of animals produced from those dogs that got off the ark, but they're still recognizable as a dog kind to a 4-year-old who can show you a dog, a wolf, and a coyote.
We actually
the same kind of animal.
stuff
A pine tree and a banana are not the same kind as a dog. But you believe pine trees and bananas and dogs are related, and you're welcome to believe that.
I mean,
it's a rich belief, and I wish you would keep it out of our school. So
can you imagine like that way of determining a kind? Like, okay, we've got to bring the 4-year-olds in. Sorry, you biology professors and PhDs, get out, go home. We don't need you anymore. We're going to bring in a bunch of 4-year-olds, and we're going to let them classify animals based on what they think looks similar.
That's right. Like I said, we got a book. Why even teach science or history or use any other textbook for any other topic? It's all right here in the good book. I mean, it's in the name. Trusted
it happens.
taking the high road sometimes means losing your Facebook page for threatening violence against business pickets. Happy Saturday morning. Well, the trusted ape, we just want to send lots of love to you right on back, and happy Saturday morning. It has been, we have traveled into the future, James and I, because it has been, I think it was very late night, but now it's very early morning. So we're looking into the future. But we're actually about to be moving. We have an open mic that's setting up, but I'm not sure we're going to have any Young Earth Creationists.
Hey, I don't think it doesn't look like it.
I mean,
It is a little late, but still.
it is. It is very late. Though I will say I saw theists. We saw both Old Earth and Young Earth Creationists in chat. So we're sending love out there. No matter what type of theist you are, feel free to join us. But we always give open rooms to people, especially who disagree with us, because we're a little
We're twisted like that.
We're just into that sort of thing. Hold on.
Even if we've got it. Do we hear a inner circle theist out there want to come on?
Circle theist, exactly. I love that. He'll never live that down. I saw a Canadian Catholic was calling into the atheist experience the other day, either using his real name or using a fake name. I'm not sure which one of those, but he's always welcome to join here. I wish more presuppositionalists would join the channel, which I know you would say, what? Why would you want more presuppositionalists? Oh, I just want to ask them. Just let me ask a few questions. I know. I'll even take like a 2-for-1 ratio. I'll take like a 5-for-1 ratio. But we're finishing this up, and then we're going to be finishing. And if no one joins, we're heading over to the Discord for the after show.
That the book of Genesis tells the exact story how it happened. God made them to bring forth after their kind,
and
that's all we've ever observed.
Thing, James.
The kind, the variations within that kind.
There you go.
Whether it be bigness or smallness or heat tolerance or whatever it is, there are limits to that, and you guys will never admit there are limits. So I think my model is exactly what matches reality.
How are the limits, Ken?
No exceptions.
What is the mechanism for those limits?
All right. Thank you very much. So
he's got time. That can be added to the Q&A too.
That's another minute. So Kent ended early as well, and we can add that to the Q&A. That's no problem.
Instead, I'm just going to send the final countdown to the lovely and fantastic James of Modern Day Debate, which hosts many fantastic debates on politics, religion, and more. And I just want to thank you all out there for joining us, for watching the opposition side. We are now just going to, I think, wrap up if no one joins. So this is our final shout out as well. If you are a Young Earth Creationist, though if you are an Old Earth Creationist or an atheist skeptic, come join us as well and say what you think about the wisdom. But yeah, we've been skeptic and ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True with Kent Hovind versus RJ Downard.
Dr. Kent.
I know. Doctor, give me the news. I got a diploma mill for you.
I worked very hard on my degree, Andy. If you don't want to call me doctor, call me Bubba.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, Trusted Ape. Yeah, he's a celebration of ignorance, I think is what Aaron Rock called one of his seminars. And it is. It's a celebration of ignorance. Willful ignorance, too. Not just not understanding.
Indeed.
It's not wanting to understand. Doing everything you can to obfuscate and try to prevent people from understanding. Because if they understood it, and they understood how much sense it made and how true it was, they might believe it. But we can't have that.
What do you think? How did RJ do? I think he was actually pretty awesome.
I think he did very well. Yeah, made a lot of good points. I think he really triggered Kent, which of course is a good tactic when
Always
you're
fun.
trying to debate somebody like that. You got to trigger him. And,
I also like the
troll them
fact
almost.
that he really called him out for being a little bit of a bottom feeder. And I used a little bit because I want to be a nice person tonight.
Well, there you go.
And woo-hoo!
It's a well-deserved label.
And we got Wildheart backstage, which means for a
Think it
little
was
bit
gonna be
we
thought
are
we had,
going to be open up for the open mic.
I thought we had got Canadian Catholic out of the woodwork.
I know. I was waiting for him, among other inner circle atheists, to join us,
Yeah.
but I guess not. But woo-hoo, I think we're going to go for like 15, 20 minutes of open mic, which means Wildheart is starting us off. We are skeptic and ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True?
Oh. No, it's not. That's it. No, it's not.
Oh, all right. See, if that fast, right? There we go.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Wildheart, so very much. And with that, we are actually going to go into the open dialogue. So thank you for joining us, Wildheart. And we are talking about
Cheers.
Is Young Earth Creationism True?
No, it's not. Right.
I agree.
What do you think is the worst Young Earth creationist argument you've ever come across?
West Young Earth Creationism. That's a good question. West Young Earth. I'll have to think about that. I'm not sure.
Huh. What do you think, Amy? What argument kind of gets at you the most?
Oh, the most annoying.
The most annoying. Look at the trees. I understand that there's ways that they can butter it up. Basically argument from beauty, but
I'm going to have to go with evolution or / atheism as a religion, or kinds changing from one kind to another.
Indeed, because what happens if you actually end up asking for logistics, they end up laying out like evolution. Like they have this one kind becoming another kind, becoming another kind. And you're like, so it evolves? Is that what you're saying?
Diversification. Yeah.
Woo-hoo. And all right, we got another person coming on, Trustworthy Ape. Welcome. We are Skeptic and Ranting. Hope you're doing well. And Trustworthy, we are talking, is Young Earth Creationism true?
Well, I hope they're funny.
Hello.
I just wanted to come in to debate Wildheart on his multitudinous points and tell him that he's wrong. And no, the young Earth simply cannot be. I have a new theory. I've called it the baby Earth. The baby Earth is not technically a young Earth. It's merely the Earth before it became old and decrepit as it is now.
I'll go with that.
So
and I blame
saying
myself for all of that.
It is it's an Earth that's going through its toddler stage.
Hopefully, I mean, fuck.
Yeah, cut out there a little bit.
Sorry, I'm on the mobile device, so maybe not the best. I just, wanted to come in and bug y'all and say hello.
No, that's good.
Ran into some trouble on Facebook, huh?
Oh, I punched trouble right in the face in this particular scenario. Done suffering fools, so we'll see what happens. I didn't make it an implicit threat. I just simply told them that if they invited me to their house, I would probably kick their ass. So.
Might be getting a little bit of feedback.
It happens. It happens.
Sorry, I'm on a laptop. I'm not used to being on a laptop. It might be me.
I just ran to the other room, but it's probably all me.
But I will say, Wildheart, I've seen you do music streams on your stream. You need to have a karaoke stream on there, and then I think I've seen you, and I'll do karaoke on there one night.
Yeah, no, I always do karaoke. Every one of my streams is karaoke. If you want to do karaoke, you can do it anytime.
All right.
I don't know. You may be able to find it. There's maybe about 3-4 months ago, I was in Wildheart's stream, and you can find me doing like a twice in a lifetime karaoke bit, doing one of my least favorite songs, "Achy Breaky Heart."
My achy breaky heart. I just don't think you'd understand. Yeah, that was good. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no, not at all. That's basically, I can't help myself sometimes. Like, every once in a while, the Bible likes to tell us very sincerely that they had it coming. They had it coming. They only had themselves to blame. But besides that...
Hey, mate, you should join one of my streams. Why do you not join my streams?
Sure. Well, I will say, in fairness, a lot of the time it is just like here. It's in the middle of the. I'm not sure if it's called the day or the night.
Yeah,
one of them. One of them. Any of them.
Any of them. But we do have 10 more minutes. So if you disagree with all of these lovely skeptics on here, now is the time to come on and be like, wow. You guys believe that the Earth is billions of years old? Even that's where all the factual empirical evidence points?
You obviously you'd be wrong, but you're not John anyway.
Exactly. But we would still love them.
One of the best debates I've seen so far was with Snake was right, and another person named Ben against two flat earthers on modern day debates. And it wasn't just the fact that these guys were unhinged, but they actually tried to present pretty much every flat earth argument in one, and just got debunked. Just point after point. But Gutsa Gibbon has already done a series on that, as well as RN Raw. So for anybody who's exactly, yeah. Actually, I think no, not flat Earth specifically. It was Biblical Age of the Earth. Rather, was the actual series by RN Raw.
Debunking the 6,000-year-old Earth.
Correct.
He did another great series, debunking the flood. He did like a 7-part series debunking Noah's flood.
Yeah, that was a part of the series I'm speaking of. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
I do want to send a shout out because we've been talking about it. If you want awesome science, biology, evolution videos, go check out the either she's about to have it or she is right now, primatologist Gutsa Gibbon. She is fantastic.
One of my favorite creators, yeah.
And we actually have...
She puts out a lot of good stuff, yeah.
5 or 6 more minutes, creationist. I'm calling you out. calling your name.
Sit in Amy's hot seat. Come on.
That's right.
She won't bite.
Unless you're into that.
She'll probably charge you for it, just so you know.
Look, if you're good at something, always out trying to quote the Joker. Never work for free. If you're good at something, never work for free. Paraphrasing.
Yeah, not to sidebar too much, but I've been considering that myself. I'm playing therapist for a couple of friends of mine, and I just jokingly said to one that I should probably be getting an hourly wage for this, because if you answer the phone, so many hours a day, it's like...
Might as well be getting something. Ask for pizza.
Well, therapy is a serious business.
Hey, so is pizza.
And Therapy is a great band. If you type in Therapy, ? Great band. Irish.
So is Grandson. I was kind of obsessed with them lately.
Now that I think about it, I don't think I know a lot of Irish music.
I don't think you'd understand. And every time my heart, my achy pricky heart.
That's
I don't remember the words now. I might go out and kill this man. That is
my
what he says.
So,
what if we adhere to a cat-based religion? That would be like the Cadians from Star Trek.
Possibly. Yeah.
That, but we just all have to wear cat ears. So we are all now Neckos.
All right, pass them out, Amy.
Hey, it makes sense. We're evolving.
We're going back and becoming a cat.
They love that word, de-evolving. Have we done? I guess we did an episode on that kind of concept, but I have to look if we've actually done the.
That's That's Bubble's tagline for a while was anyway. Devolution. You didn't mention it last time he was on, but.
Where these creationists, they don't seem to be turning up. I'm over there. Sorry. My life is...
I'm going to blame it on them being super, super late. That's why.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Excuse.
I'm even giving them permission to come and everything, and they're not.
I know. They're not.
Very nice of you, huh?
I know. That's what I look.
She doesn't always give permission.
That's right. You have to work very hard on your knees.
They're masterful tacticians. They've seen a lot of porn in their time, and they know that 4 pegs in 1 hole doesn't fit.
What I would give to check out Ken Hovind's browser history.
I think it might even scare you, Amy.
I probably would.
It might even scare you.
It's like a whole bunch of erotica about like sovereign citizen. It's like, and then she whispered into his ear, "You can be your own one nation. Just you, Kent. Just you."
Well, I mean, I would say it maybe something along the lines of what Alex Jones likes to look at.
Oh my! No, well, I guarantee probably that would be more to lie. He either has ladies like me or a Grindr account. That would be my general bet. But no, Matt Powell, I'm sure, is more than a boy toy. What were we talking about?
Totally straight.
Yeah,
super straight.
I'm not sure.
At least 1/4 of American males, quote unquote, accidentally look up gay porn, a bazillion times.
they fall into it, just like I do with Yowie. What were we talking about?
Don't tell my achy breaky heart. I just don't think you understand.
Listen,
I think I know
You're-
what song is on your head.
you're going to have to start paying $5 every time you sing that little jingle.
And all right, we're about to be moving into outros if no one joins us, and then head on to the after show on Discord. But I'm glad that you guys joined us. It's always lovely to have more of the Skeptic crew on. But the Young Earth Creationist, I don't know. I think it's that we give them too much time. I think if we were to ban them, they would try to join more. But, we just actually want to let them talk.
We give them enough rope to hang themselves with, and they know that, so they stay away.
Right. Look, there is nothing wrong with a little yaoi, a little gay porn. Okay?
Okay.
Hey, guys. But I just don't think that the practitioners of the 6,000-year-old Earth are going to come on. I think they're too busy trying to get it into our school system.
Trying and failing.
Trying and failing. Yes. Thank Bob for that. Is that even though many of the theist judges may even be Christian, they see through the big amounts of bullshit that people like Ken Hovind, even Answers in Genesis, needs to let out like warnings that are like, listen, even he is full of shit.
The difference. No, you finish. Go ahead.
To me, the key is this generation gap. Like, no matter what the denomination, it always seems like older generations are desperately afraid of younger generations understanding things or comprehending things that they don't. Like, that's what I always get out of it.
I would say I think the thing with Ken Hovind is he refuses to learn. Like, he will just go out there and make the same argument no matter how many times it's refuted. And I think he has no shame, but I think a lot of these other organizations, maybe they have a little shame, and maybe they were like, hey, Ken, that argument's been refuted like over and over again. Would you please stop using it? But he just says no, and he keeps on making it, because for him to stop using it, that would be an admission on his part that maybe he was wrong. And he will never, ever, ever, never, ever admit that he was ever been wrong about anything, because he's a narcissist.
Hey, mate, that's a great pussy. Nice.
Why, thank you so very much. I will say,
The best.
And we keep it trimmed.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, the producer's taking a nap over here.
That's right, Gizmo. Well, Gizmo had to put in a lot of work into pre-production, so I understand.
Yeah.
And that's true. I do think most of the Young Earth creationists, they must be all locked in their sex dungeons right now. And so
what do you think Ken Hovind's doing right now?
We gave them permission. I don't know if they do. And so that's the problem. And I imagine Kent is probably on his knees somewhere, right?
In bondage gear.
I imagine that is latex and a whole bunch of, he's probably got something in his mouth somewhere. But we have been Skeptic and Ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True? It has been a fantastic night, and we are moving into outros. Also, jazz hands. Woohoo! Thank you so very much, Trustworthy Ape, for joining us. We have been Skeptic and Ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True, with a back and forth between Kent Hovind versus RJ Downard, with a little bit of commentary on top. Hope you had a fun time. Where can people find you, and what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here again. I am the Trusty Ape podcast is the most efficient way to find me on YouTube, or Anchor FM, I guess, is that other one. Yeah, I've kind of been shifting. I mean, I do atheist deconversion stories, but I've also been focused on philosophy and more recently sex and gender equality and education. So hopefully I'll be doing a dialogue with Snake is Right, or Snake Was Right. I'm sorry. Snake Was Right in the near future. We're kind of talking about the non-binary debate, and that's all I've really got going on at the moment. But to anybody who wants to come by, I'm curious about all kinds of subjects, and working on this for philosophical naturalism.
Absolutely, and not only that, but if you get your link in the private chat, I will get it up on screen.
She'll put it up.
Thank you.
And absolutely, because we like to cross-pollinate, I will consistently keep on saying it. Unlike the religious, we don't schism. We don't need to have holy wars. And so, even though we're like cats and don't always agree, speaking of cats, I saw our producer was waking up. He knew that we were wrapping up and had to get there. But all right, we'll get that. I'll make sure that gets into chat while Trustworthy is doing that. Thank you so very much for joining us. And Wildheart, we have been Skeptic and Ranting on Is Young Earth Creationism True, with some Kent Hovind versus RJ Downard back and forth, along with some little bit of commentary back on top. I hope you had fun. Where can people find you?
It was
And
great.
of course, what are your final thoughts?
It was great. You can find me on my channel, which is in the private chat. I've just got a customized URL. Yeah, you can find me every day on my channel. Just join. That's it.
Thank you so very much, Wildheart. And hey, we always there are certain benchmarks, and the coveted 100 that gets you the name. That's very important.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, thank you so very much,
Thanks,
Wildheart.
Wild.
Cheers.
And all right, James, I am giving it to the co-pilot because it has been a massive flight and a journey of wisdom. We have been watching
huge.
the 15-foot Kent Hovind on Is Young Earth Creationism True versus RJ Downard. I think we both had a great time tonight, but really
It was a good
what I
time.
want to know is, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts. Yeah, it was a good debate. I think better ones that we've seen. Ken Hovind in. It's definitely up there with the R and Ra and Professor Dave outings and the Mark Drysdale one that we saw last week. But I want to thank Atheist Jr for coming on, helping us, and I want to thank those on the panel. Everybody in chat. It is almost 6 in the morning. What are you guys doing still up? You're hanging out with us. We appreciate it, and we love you guys. Thank you.
Woohoo! That's right. Thank you so very much,
Send in love.
James. Send in love. I also even have a coming soon, possibly. I saw a Kent versus Destiny debate that we may have to review. So, and a whole bunch of other fun videos that are up and coming.
Up and coming.
That's right, baby. I recorded a new short if you are up there on the TikToks. So go check out Amy Newman TikTok. Maybe releasing it on the YouTubes about how suns and stars form. And then I also want to send some love to Trustworthy Ape right here so that we can keep on connecting all of the non-believers.
We need to get some more subscribers so that get that URL cleaned up.
But I also want to give a shout out to AJ for coming on with us today and being our special guest host. So if you don't know the takedown-er of Dr. Dino himself.
The guy Ken over wakes up nightmares about.
Having chills.
Well,
you need to go head out to Atheist Jr.
Him, Aaron Ross.
We just gave you 3 awesome skeptic non-believers out there to go check out. So much fun content. What are you even doing? And it's like someone out there is like having a sandwich while they're painting. They're like, I'm doing shit, lady. What are you talking about? We're sending love out there, interwebs. In fact,
go watch Atheist Jr. and Aaron Ross with your other hand.
Go watch Aaron Ross. Go watch. You triggered the next bell because I just have to keep on shouting out. What are you not even doing? Aaron Ra is finishing up his Quran studies, which are the bigger sister show to our Skeptic Bible study. So you should be checking out that too. Woo!
To take a page out of Joe Biden, you're not an atheist if you're not subscribed to Aaron Ross.
I want to actually do one final shout out before we final out is that sending love to all of you out there on the YouTube chats. In fact, if you are looking to become a YouTube chat mod, please, we're always looking for more. But what we're really looking for, Facebook, Twitch, Facebook and Twitch mods and admins, if you even really want to put that mantle on, if you would like to help be part of the community chat dialogue and also be a mod, be sheriff yourself, please reach out to James W. or myself at Amy Newman in the Discord at our Skeptic and Ranting Discord, or you could find YouTube. There is an email. So send out for us, but I do hope that you all had a good time on this episode of Skeptic and Ranting. So,
thank you, Amy.
What?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now
the process of becoming modded includes when we actually get to meet in person. Amy will have to tap your shoulders with a 15-foot whale penis, just like how the Queen of England knights, just how the Queen of England does it, but Amy does it with a whale dick.
Exactly. It is the exact same process, I assume.
Can I inspect the blowhole first?
Oh, yes, you may.
Can I thank you, Amy? You have given me hours and hours of entertainment for nothing. Thank you a lot.
Tip your waitress.
We're just sending that love right back. In fact, I hope you all enjoyed this.
She's here all night.
That's right. Tip your waitress. Versus RJ
we were here all night.
From the channel Modern Day Debate for some apparently 1,000-year-old fun. However, I do want to thank my co-host James W., along with our special guest host, Atheist Jr., along with our guest, Wildheart, and Trustworthy Ape, as well as the people in chat, our awesome mods who make this stream so great and lovely.
I don't know how she would handle a whale vagina. I don't think that works the same way.
It doesn't have this. It doesn't have the tip off your same tongue. And lovely viewers like you.
Maybe it would just be
a tail there, or no?
A whale of a tail.
Yeah. Maybe like a whale of Well, I guess just be a vagina of a tail, I guess. I don't know.
See, now we're getting down to the actual science. And
Well, penises are also.
and lovely viewers like you who make this
We love you
channel
guys.
even possible. If you enjoyed the show, please like, follow, or subscribe. Then you gain access to that all button icon, which gives you reminders to join our live streams, or leave a comment once the video is done. After the show, we
Great.
will be heading over to the Skeptic and Ranting Discord server, the link of which is in the description below.
All the cool kids are there.
I know. Lastly, where do I have my cool kid sunglasses?
Down
somewhere?
below, like
Down below.
in hell. Yeah.
Yes. Also, where Gavin is. Gavin, are you doing well down there? Gavin's like, whoa! Don't lump me in with these young Earth creationists. I know, Gavin. It helped.
Well, imagine trying to say that when. Ooh.
Oh, I know you got a mouthful, but he makes his earning. He makes his keep. Lastly, if you would like to help us make even more content, oh my, we offer some perks for our supporters by checking out our Patreon at patreon.com/Amy Newman. I am Amy Newman, and we will see you all on the next adventure of Skeptic Ball Z. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Moonlight. Is that him up there?
Good night, all kitties, all puppies of the world. Yes, it was. And we'll see you all on the Discord server. Good night,
night, guys.
everyone. Or good morning.
Good night.